All right, it's all being considered. Welcome. All being considered, starring Doctor Crystal Heath. That's Jack Morgan. How you doing, Doctor?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. There's a lot going on in animal. All the beings are being discussed today at the Agricultural Committee, and I know that it's a big topic today.
Yeah.
Kind of getting
Yeah,
crazy.
that's what I spent my morning watching in between meetings was this House Ag Committee. I want to take that down because it doesn't show up well on the verticals. But yeah, there was like I don't know how long it was, 3-hour meeting of the House Agriculture Committee discussing the implications of Prop 12. And here I was trying to show their tweet that says, backed by animal rights activists, the requirements of Prop 12 have no standing in reality and do nothing to improve animal welfare, food safety, or food affordability. They said at 7:28 a.m. before even discussing it, they had already come to that conclusion.
Before discussing it, that's a little foregone conclusion there. You eat it with no standing, no basis in reality. That was the Department of Agriculture tweeting it. So
no, the House Committee on Agriculture tweeted that. And I responded with, no, this was backed by veterinarians and public health officials following peer-reviewed scientific evidence to support methods of protein production that protect our food security and public health. Stress in intensively confined sows increases the growth and virulence of pathogens pigs commonly carry and stimulates the growth of pathogens, including Campylobacter, Salmonella, Yersinia, Listeria, and Staphylococcus aureus. And I cite all my facts. And they responded to me.
They responded? Wow.
Yes, on the Twitter machine, that the leading veterinarian groups oppose Prop 12, and California's own Department of Food and Agriculture noted in their rulemaking that animal confinement spaces allowances prescribed in the act are not based in scientific, peer-reviewed, published scientific literature or accepted as standards within the scientific community to reduce human foodborne illnesses, promote worker safety, the environment, and other human safety concerns. I responded with the American Veterinary Medical Association stands in opposition to the opinions of most veterinarians and has been captured by corporate interests. The American Association of Swine Veterinarians is a small group that denies membership to veterinarians.
Wow.
Support policy that advocates for improved animal welfare. This is a group that character assassinated and retaliated against veterinarians opposed to the AVMA lending legitimacy to the mass killing of animals using ventilation shutdown plus. And I encourage them to read the amicus brief that is more representative of peer-reviewed scientific data and the beliefs of most veterinarians. And that amicus brief is an amicus brief that me and around 400 other people, veterinarians and animal welfare scientists, signed.
You got to get up pretty early in the morning to pull one over on Dr. Heath. She's out there.
Yeah.
She's out there making sure, holding the House on Agricultural Committee accountable. What are you doing today?
But yeah, it's just freaking ridiculous how they can just like they've already made their opinions.
Why bother
and
having
they have their experts, their so-called experts who, want to legitimize whatever facts they decide are going to be facts. So
I think it's really interesting, though. Okay, so for everyone who's never been here before, this is all being considered, where we talk about animal welfare issues, animal rights from a different perspective, mostly a veterinarian one, but from different perspectives. Here on Twitter, Twitch, where are we? We're on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. We're all over the place. And the Prop 12 is. I find it fascinating because as I'm listening to this Agricultural Committee meeting or House Committee on Agriculture, whatever it's called, I find myself really thinking about states' rights too. So it's covering a lot. I think it's almost like a microcosm of like a snapshot of politics today too. I thought it kind of touches everything. I mean, Trump's name was brought up, of course, and what we should be concentrating on. Tariffs were brought up. It hits everything, and I think it also shows how divided we are as a country, that we're going to try to demonize California
Well,
voters. Mm,
I don't know if we're divided as a country, but those in power do not represent the interests of the regular people. They represent the interests of billion-dollar corporations. And that's the divide. It's not like left versus right. It's a hierarchy of power. Those with
yes.
power and money and those of us without it. That's what it's really about. And
Yeah,
it's
I agree with that, because you heard that the people on both sides were kind of like kowtowing to these quote unquote experts that I thought were it was fascinating. It was a fascinating little dance they all did. No, I agree with you completely
Mhm.
that it's it's about the haves and have-nots more than anything. But they did talk a lot about small farms versus large farms. You heard about it, and it was kind of funny too. It went through all of the arguments that we hear all the time, like it actually hurts the animals more to have
Yeah.
welfare legislation, that it costs more and you can't afford it. No one will be able to afford pigs anymore. Even things like it's bad for the environment. Which one's better for the environment? It's hurting small businesses.
And people were buying less
Yep.
pork, and
Oh
oh
yeah.
no. And it's kind of like maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we should give other protein a chance. Um,
Yeah, they also brought up veterinarians a bunch of times, because like I saw
yeah,
this I saw them even say that the AVMA supported it. I thought that was a strange
yeah,
thing. They brought
of
up
course.
they used your name in vain right there.
Yeah,
Here, let me see if I get there. It's at
because
11:10. Do you want to hear it real fast?
yeah, let's hear
Council,
it.
American Farm Bureau Federation, and over 900 more national, state, and local farm organizations, as well as the AVMA.
The AVMA, all of the different pork associations, as well as the AVMA. He said that everyone supports it. All the veterinarians support it. What's your problem?
No, and the truth is, the vast majority of veterinarians do not support the use of gestation crates. In fact, there was a survey done of over 70,000 veterinarians, and 72% of respondents found gestation crates very objectionable. So we know that the AVMA does not represent um, our interests and is clearly not following the science.
They're not like science is secondary here, although they'll bring out their own scientists and legal experts as we go through this. And sometimes the legal experts were a little stumped, which I thought was pretty telling. They went over the fact that the Supreme Court refused to hear the challenge, which I think is refreshing, because they're literally telling, if you want to change this, then Congress is going to have to pass a law. And I don't know how they're going to do that, though, Crystal, because they're not in session right now. So we're not going to see any change on this in a little time anyway, because Mike Johnson shut down the House. There will be no votes this summer. They've shut down for the summer because of the Epstein thing. He didn't want to have the
Mhm.
vote to release the file, so they ran.
But
Which
maybe in
is
the fall they'll vote?
in the fall they're going to start voting on stuff again. Yeah, yeah, late August, I guess, is when they come back. But it'll be about a month and 10. How long is it? I forget how many. It's like 8 weeks, 7 weeks, or something like that. Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, obviously they don't. But the other thing that brought up, it touched on a lot of stuff that we've talked about on FOIA Friday, something that's near and dear to my heart, the fact that China controls about 40%. Not China, I'm sorry. China controls about 25% of our pork in this country, but it also JBS and JBS is a Brazilian company, but JBS and Smithfield combined, they control almost 40% of pork in America. And they even kind of talk about it a little bit over and over again. But here's the first mention of that.
Mhm.
I thought would be they've mentioned it here.
Convenient straw man during a time of heightened scrutiny of China's investments in the United States. The truth is that protein conglomerates with foreign ownership have the resources to comply with state-by-state mandates, while small family farmers and ranchers do not. The cost of
Saying that China, so you're complaining about China, but China and the foreign companies actually have money to comply with Prop 12, and our
Mhm.
American homegrown ones don't.
Interesting.
Did that make sense to you? How is
Well,
it?
Glenn Thompson said, I've heard every accusation possible from China somehow gaining access to our farmland, to thousands of state laws
Yeah.
being overturned. Neither of these carry any weight. While false, the China argument is a convenient straw man during a time of heightened scrutiny of China's investments in the United States.
Yeah, that was the same clip. Yeah, that was the you started
Yeah.
a little earlier, but absolutely. Yes, in heightened scrutiny. Heightened scrutiny, and yet foreign investors are now listed on the New York Stock Exchange. If you want, you just have to give Donald Trump $5 million, and you can put your companies on the New York Stock Exchange. So JBS is on there now, even though we're raising tariffs, 50% tariffs on Brazil. There's the reason why they say they want to do that is so that they increase animal production here. So what will JBS have to do other than buy more farmland here? That's the only way to acquiesce and bring the prices down, is for JBS to go around 50% tariff. They would have to buy land and produce their animals here. So I don't know how you get around that.
Somebody from Minnesota said, we haven't gained new market access to replace the lost Chinese market, which took a hit during the COVID era. China canceled 12,000 metric tons of U.S. pork imports in retaliation against President Trump's trade war.
Yeah. The trade war comes up a lot. I like that.
The rebuttal to the China helps argument. Do you believe that a fix to Proposition 12 would help China, or do you believe that it will help American farmers and ranchers and consumers? And Horde of the National Pork Producers Council responded, no, I think this helps any of our foreign competitors. There are foreign trading partners concerned about this. It could be looked at as an advantage for other countries. I think he's saying Prop 12 would be an advantage for other countries if we upheld it. Or that's his argument.
It's a strange argument because later on they also say how many pork producers are already complying with Prop 12 because it was passed quite some time ago. So the ones who are following the law have done just fine. This one right here speaks to your point about global trade.
Livestock industry. We export 30% of the pork we produce, and hogs are constantly moving back and forth across our border with Canada. But today,
can you slow it down? That's just way too fast. We're not going to go through the whole thing, so we don't need to do the speed it up stuff.
No problem. She said that that Canada and Mexico we export 30% of our pork, so
would have been exported. We haven't gained new market access to replace the lost Chinese market, which took a hit during the COVID era supply chain chaos, and then shrank further after China canceled 12,000 metric tons of U.S. pork imports in retaliation against President Trump's.
He says that against President Trump's, that they retaliated against President Trump by canceling their import of our pork. But isn't the pork going to China? Isn't that like a special? What's that special pork they got? They don't have the
ractopamine free pork. Yeah.
It's ractopamine free pork.
Yeah.
And so they canceled that special order. Was it in retaliation? Is that the truth? It seems odd to me, but
it might have had something to do with it. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe. And then they went in further after that to talk about not just global trade, but also the workers. And I thought that's something that we talk a lot about on this show, and I kind of wanted to just touch on that for a second.
Administration is eliminating large portions of the meatpacking workforce, which will affect hog prices when packers can't operate facilities at full capacity. Just the other week, 200 legal workers at a JBS plant in Iowa had their visas revoked and are now being deported. Congress can work on solutions to revitalize and strengthen the agriculture guest worker program, but common sense needs to prevail. I'm hopeful that this Prop 12 hearing will give us some new ideas to work with and possibly yield a viable path forward for all of our nation's hog farmers.
So, I mean, I think she brings up a point without putting too fine a point on it, and I think that I'd like to put a finer point on it. Part of the reason why animal flesh is costing more is the fact that we're deporting the workforce, or we're incarcerating the workforce, or worse. Like, if you don't have the labor, that means you need to pay other people more money to attract them. So it costs you more money. There's just no way, like,
Yeah, but also if you put pigs in gestation crates, you need fewer workers. So like, which is it? Are you worried about the lost jobs, or are you worried about, are you trying to create jobs, or are you trying to lose jobs? I don't know where they stand on this.
yeah. Yeah, that's right. Are they trying to create jobs? Or are they trying to not create jobs? Which one
Because
is
if you
it?
wanted to create jobs, then creating pork used without gestation crates would
Create
have
more
a higher
jobs.
labor demand.
But with
But
that
yeah,
labor demand, and if we're going to cancel all of these workers' visas, people were here legally and then were arrested and deported. This is something that, I talk about every morning on my other show, is like, people, well, they're illegals. They weren't illegal. They were here legally on legal
yeah.
visas, and they were arrested and deported, or worse.
Mhm.
And these types of operations are messing with the supply chain. I guess that would be the thing, right? I can't tell you that necessarily makes it more expensive, but being a person who's had to run a lot of businesses in my life, if someone's disrupting your labor, that's where it hurts. That's where it always hurts the most, is labor.
Yep.
Um,
I really, yeah. I really wanted to highlight what they said about like how consumers are now purchasing less pork, and they were
yeah.
acting like that was a bad thing. Rep- Representative Thompson cited a USDA affordability study showing that low-income households in California reduced pork purchases by 22%, indicating price increases are affecting food access. And hey, you're jumping to conclusions here, sir.
Yeah.
Just because they don't want to buy pork anymore does not mean it's affecting food access and affordability for economically vulnerable populations. Because as we've discussed before, pork is dangerous especially pork produced with gestation crates is dangerous and costs us a lot of money because it has high rates of Campylobacter. Pork is the leading cause of foodborne illness in the US. It's a good thing that people with lower incomes are not purchasing pork, because 787 illnesses annually are caused by pork.
I mean, it makes sense to me, Crystal. It makes perfect sense to me. I mean, if you raise the price of cigarettes that cause all sorts of illnesses, fewer people smoke.
Fewer poor people are smoking cigarettes. Isn't
Dang
this a
it.
horrible thing? Like, this is how we should be talking about this. We're
Yes.
talking about the cigarette companies. Like, pork is the cigarette company. So everything they're saying, imagine that they're talking about cigarettes. And like, oh no, the decreased demand for it. This is horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, Dominion Movement says maybe people don't want more bills, like medical bills. Yeah, exactly. People, and it should be more expensive. Things that harm you and poison you should be more expensive. We do that with everything. We tax alcohol. They're lucky it's not a tax. This is just, it costs you more money to do it this way.
A 6% decline in California's consumption of covered pork cuts, resulting in a $320 million hit to consumers each year. But funny enough, salmonella alone is responsible for $1.9 billion in annual public health costs, and 60% of sows test positive. 10% of these strains are multi-drug resistant. So
yeah,
I think we're better off.
I think we're definitely better. For some reason, they didn't mention those things, although they did mention again here that the AVMA is a big fan.
And Prop 12 do not objectively improve animal welfare and may unintentionally cause harm. Larger farms tend to have access to sufficient capital to diversify and absorb Prop 12's cost burdens, but smaller farms find it difficult to obtain the capital and undertake the associated risks. Regardless of size, all farms have or will continue to experience productivity losses under Prop 12. You simply cannot house the same number of sows in the same size barn. Prop 12 compliant housing is inherently less efficient. The existential challenge of Prop 12 is a patchwork of differing regulations across the country.
Okay, so this is something that he's saying that the AVMA says that sometimes it actually harms pigs more, which I don't see how it would, except they say that some pigs like bully each other away from the water supply or something, that like they get hierarchies because they have complex social structures in the pig
Yeah.
world.
So just because we take pigs out of gestation crates that are 2.5 foot by 7.5 foot where they can't turn around doesn't mean that we can't house sows individually in pens that are, what is the minimum, 24 square feet of
Yeah,
space?
right.
So they're just trying to figure out how they can cram sows together in the
Right.
same pen. You can still separate the sows, but you just have to make sure that their pen is big enough. But the AVMA isn't citing any research because research does show that 92.6% of crated sows exhibit abnormal repetitive behaviors known as stereotypies. And these are the coping mechanisms to deal with the psychological distress. So yeah, like I almost feel like some of these sow producers were like being passive aggressive. They're like, oh, we can't do gestation crates, so like we're just gonna throw all these aggressive sows together and like
Yeah, watch them
without
fight.
considering how
It's
they
yeah,
where
it's now
their
the
food is and
Thunderdome
everything,
in there.
and
Yeah.
just like watch them fight. It's like so ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous, but he also introduced a theme for this entire committee meeting of the patchwork of laws. The
Mhm.
50 states each will have individual welfare laws, and they claim that this is a horrible thing, but every time I talk to people who eat flesh and any kind of animal products, they constantly tell me that they only buy from their local uncle. They only buy animals from their local farms.
Yeah.
Well, if each state has a different law, then maybe we could all buy local. Maybe this is exactly what everybody wants. That's what they always tell me they want. But these
And
people are saying,
Californians, like we realize that pig production is dangerous. It threatens our public health, our food
yeah,
security, and that's
water
probably why a
sensitivity.
lot of like pig production went out of California because
Yeah.
Californians were like, we don't want a hog farm built next to us, built in our state. And now
Upriver.
we have issues with the way that pigs are produced, and we don't want pigs produced in ethical ways to be sold in California.
Not in
And
my backyard, right? This is the classic NIMBY, right? We don't want
yeah,
it
we
in my
don't want
uplands
our
for me.
hospitals to have a bunch of sick people who are sick from pork, and we don't want our taxpayers to have to pay for that. And we have a right to decide that
As
we don't want
voters,
that. Yeah.
100%. And the Supreme Court says it does, that we have the right to that too, unless they pass another law in Congress
What about
to
this
save the
patchwork
bacon. Yeah, the
patchwork of
patchwork.
cigarette laws across the country where
We have
sometimes you
those.
can smoke indoors, sometimes you can't. It's a patchwork of laws. What
Yeah,
do we do?
sometimes. Yeah, what do we
Like,
do? You're so right. You're so right. Sometimes you're allowed this a milligram of tar, and sometimes you can have more tar. Even that stuff even the labeling is different from state to state. So what's the problem? Do it with pork.
sometimes this patchwork of laws related to the selling of alcohol. Sometimes you can buy alcohol on Sundays, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can only through a drive-through thing, drugstore
Sometimes
for
only
some reason.
4%, sometimes only
Yeah.
in this amount. Yeah, we have a patchwork of laws. Why don't we have a patchwork of laws for this? It's unbelievable to me. All right, so that one really got to me. And they also talk about air control, that it's actually better for them to be in these gestation crates because they have AC. It's better than your office, Crystal.
Yeah.
They're treated better than your office. There's
Continuous
Matt.
improvement
This
is
is Matt Scheidemann. His he says farmer and board member of the Iowa Farm Bureau.
ways to provide our pigs the best possible environment. New technologies like computer thermostats and devices that measure both the volume and air movement in a hog barn are resources we use to ensure the maximum comfort of our pigs. In Northwest Iowa, our climate can be extreme. Modern climate-controlled barns allow pigs to live comfortably year-round with access to fresh water, controlled feed, and real-time monitoring to provide the best customized environment.
So you see, they're doing everything right. Why is California sticking its nose in the Iowa pig farm when they have air conditioning, everybody. It's too ding dang do difficult.
So pigs that are housed in 24 square foot pens instead of the 2.5 foot by 7 foot square foot pens
No AC.
don't have access to AC. But if we put them in these gestation crates, they do have access to air. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just a BS claim. Like he's I don't know, as much as the human in me wants to give him a little grace. Like he's been asked to come up here and spew all this BS and toe this company line for these corporations, and he's reading from a script, and he's just like, he's going to sound like an idiot no matter what he does. He has an impossible job, but he's going to win. I think
Yeah,
he's gonna
it's kind of like it, but in a way, these poor people remind me a lot of animal rights activists who don't actually look at what the industry arguments are, and are just like talking past, what the industry is saying. It's like, no, refute, like learn what their arguments are and refute them, and don't just roll your eyes at them, because that's what I've seeing a lot of animal rights activists do. It's like, and
you're totally right, and I do want to
do that.
I agree with you, and I try to meet these people. Like I said, I try to meet everyone with a little bit of grace. I'm not always good at it, but I try, and I'm trying to see the humanity in this guy. And it's just like he's given an impossible task, but I think it's like, well, you're gonna win no matter what you say, so just get up there. It's a friendly crowd. Just get up there and read this BS. He says something about these 3 principles here. I wanted to see what this was all about, because here we go.
Our efforts have always revolved around 3 principles. 1, the comfort of the animal. 2, the productivity of the animal. And 3, the health and safety of the stockman. We've learned
1, the health of the animal. 2, the productivity of the animal. And 3, the health of the stockman. Those are the 3 principles.
Okay. The stockman, not the stock women.
The stockman.
And
not
you're only talking about the guy who owns the farm, or are you talking about the workers?
I don't think they're talking about the work. I think he is in this case actually talking about the workers. But again, it rings a little hollow, seeing as what we see with these workers, what they go through, or if you've ever driven by a pig farm, imagine working inside of that pig farm.
Yeah, if you just smell the outside of it,
yes. Inside of it, you're probably dying. So those are the 3 principles.
Confinement of breeding females has proven to be the best mix of those 3 principles.
Confining and breeding the females is the best mix of those 3 principles. The health of the animal, the production of the animal, the productivity of the animal, and the health of the stockman.
Okay. You can't do that by putting them in 24 square foot pens.
Those 3 principles go out the window immediately.
Because the stockman would have to walk farther, I guess, and that wouldn't be good for him.
We would have to hire more stockmen, I guess. Yes, it blew me away a little bit. And here they talk about California, why they hate California so much. Hold on, because why California should just mind their own darn business. 301 31. Here we go. 31 15. Here we go.
From late 2022 to early 2024, record high production costs and lower hog prices.
Holly Cook does not look like she belongs with this creepy crew. Did they just like bring the teen? Like what did they do? They just
this is just a very common scene. I wonder what her background is, because
she talks about it.
It's like, does she? It's kind of like the cult thing. You need skinny white women to give legitimacy to what you're doing. So if we can woo some skinny white women to like say the things that we need said to support whatever our thing is, we're good. We're good with the public.
I love the fact that it's like you have, okay, so Holly Cook, she says that she's also raised with her she's like a 4th generation farmer or something. So I feel like she's born into this industry, and this is where this was her career path, right? But they have got kind of a Daphne and Velma thing going on. You've got 3 dudes that look like Iowa pig farmers. And then you have the Velma, who's like the legal mind. and you have the
Mhm.
skinny white girl who looks like she just turned 18, but she looks like she just got a college degree and now she's working for her dad. And then
Mhm.
you got the Latino woman, the Latina who
Mhm.
talks a lot about the consumer, and I think she's the only one from California on the witness bench.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I do want to get to also there's a Democrat from my favorite person to hate, my favorite Democrat to hate, which is Jim Costa. He's on this committee, which I was really excited to see. I want to watch his whole thing. It's only a couple minutes. And LaMalfa is in the end. He's the only Republican from California there. But it's kind of funny. They're left in this situation where they have to like defend their state because the state is getting talked so much trash on how stupid the voters and all this. Like, do they know
Mhm.
what it's just it's like the insults coming from these morons at Capitol Hill. It really is offensive. But here she is talking about why Californians should mind their own business.
Resulted in an average loss of $29 on each hog sold, equating to billions of dollars in lost equity across the industry. While margins have improved in 2025 and many farms are continuing to recover financially, there is no shortage of risk facing U.S. pork producers and their ability to make decisions and remain viable for future generations. The issues created by Prop 12 only add to the uncertainty, and despite recommending Congress fix Prop 12, the Supreme Court's decision has opened the door for any state to put stipulations on the sale of pork outside its borders. While California accounts for about 13% of domestic pork consumption, it is responsible for less than 0.1% of hog production, meaning it relies almost entirely on out-of-state farmers to supply compliant products. As expected, compliance with Prop 12 raises the cost of production at the farm level. While becoming compliant looks different for each individual farm, every approach comes with costs.
There you go. So California, it accounts for 13% of the market, but only produces 0.1% of the pigs.
Yeah.
Well, hell, I think the consumer, this is capitalism here now. This is Adam
Mhm.
Smith capitalism in The Wealth of Nations. He says that the invisible hand of capitalism is the market being the consumer becoming educated about the goods that they're consuming and pushing back and regulating the producers. This is a clear case of this. But they're like, no, we don't want you to have a say. You should only be able to choose between cheap pork and Prop 12 compliant pork.
Here's some other facts. California produces 0% of bananas and 0% of coffee and virtually no tropical hardwoods. Yet we have standards for all of those things: organic certification, fair trade, environmental labeling. No one claims Hawaii or Costa Rica should set California food safety rules just because they grow the product. Likewise,
Good point.
Massachusetts doesn't produce oranges, but it can still prohibit oranges with excessive pesticide residues. The entire concept of state level consumer protections, whether for toys, electronics, cosmetics, is based on the idea that these states have the right to control what enters the markets and not to control what other states produce. So,
Right. It's not controlling what they produce. It's saying that also if we grew bananas in California, we would have to do it by the same standards as those growing someplace else if we wanted to. There are some banana trees. I've
are
seen
they
them.
super mad at China for saying China doesn't do rectopamine? Are they trying to like lobby China? We export however much pork
It was
to
like
China,
2,000 something. It was so many tons, hundreds of tons or something,
and
thousands
you're
of tons.
making us produce it without rectopamine. That's not fair.
How dare you? We should go up. We should have a war with China. This, it does remind me of kind of the Boxer Rebellion, right? I think that was the Boxer Rebellion, where the opium wars in China, where England was selling China opium in exchange for tea because it was cheaper and easier to move opium and tea around than it was to move silver. So rather than trade silver for tea, they wanted to trade opium for tea, and China made it against the law. And so England said, that's fine. Now we're going to kill you all unless you buy our opium. You have to change that law. We're going to go to war with you. And they won. And China just had to start taking opium again. Opium was legal all of a sudden again. Jackie Boyle, thank you so much. I mean, it makes no sense to say that we're not going to we can't pass laws about what happens in our state. I don't know, man. You know, in
Yeah.
California, we have whole cities where you're not allowed to buy cigarettes. The whole cities. You can't buy flavored cigarettes in San Francisco. The whole San Francisco Bay, no mentholated cigarettes, no strawberry cigarettes, nothing like that. You can't buy it. Why isn't that a big problem? The tobacco
Yeah.
farmers should get together and change it. You know,
All of the Humboldt marijuana farmers should get together and like be really upset that when states ban marijuana, like, because how dare they?
how dare
You
they
know,
not allow?
especially states that don't produce marijuana in their state. Are they banning our marijuana? That's not right.
You're totally right. Like Texas should be mind their P's and Q's. Why can't they allow them? But it's the patchwork, Crystal. It's the patchwork.
Yeah,
That's
we
the
can't have a
scary part.
patchwork of laws. Yeah.
We can't have different laws in every state. That's unreasonable. We have to have one law to rule them all, which is exactly what the Republicans for, I don't know, my whole life said they wanted. And now all of a sudden they're saying, no, we don't like that idea. We want a big government ruling everything. But hey,
Yeah.
here you go. There's Lily Rocha. She's the Latino Restaurant Association representative.
Yeah. She said a lot of good things.
Yeah. She says something that I think is important because it's one of those things that we hear all the time when talking with people about this issue. And it just goes to show that the industries are making the same arguments as people in the street.
Or skyrocketing prices. In addition, Prop 12 is the most recent of many costly regulations that these small businesses, in particular restaurants, are being asked to absorb. Pork loins are up 41%, bacon 16%. A carnitas taco, once $1.50, now costs $5 to $6, pricing out loyal customers who rely on these meals not just for sustenance, but for cultural connection.
Cultural connection.
Mhm.
She goes on to say that Prop 12 is preventing Latinos from realizing their cultural heritage.
Mm.
So, of course,
When
we
were pigs
know.
brought to Mexico?
Yes,
Like-
I was about to say. So pigs did come over in the 1500s. They came over during the Columbian
And
Exchange.
They immediately put them in the gestation crates, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
immediately, straight
gestation
in.
crates are part of the cultural heritage of Mexico, from
No,
what
of
I'm
course-
getting from her.
Of course, those pigs were what you think of as, well, they were what now we call them heritage breeds. They were black pigs. They were raised primarily out of doors. They were hardier animals. They weren't these massive creatures that we think of as these big pink pigs today. They were small black. They weren't so small. They were still really large animals, but they were brought over during Columbus's time in early 1500s.
1519, the
Yeah.
Spanish conquistadors led by Hernan Cortez brought them
Yeah.
over.
Yes. Yeah, they brought them over, and pigs are one of the first animals that are documented kind of moving around and being used as livestock. They were easy to travel. They were hardy animals. They could eat anything. Shakespeare talks about them. It's like every time you look at kind of just early modern history, you get pigs. Pigs are with us.
Mhm.
And for all that time, we didn't have gestation crates. We didn't do any of those things. So to say that, first of all, I find two things to be erroneous here. One is that the Latino culture relies on pigs. That's not true. I mean, Latino
No.
culture existed for 1,000 years before.
They don't rely on pork produced in gestation crates. Like,
No, that's
that's
true
not
too.
part of their culture.
Right.
Um,
Mhm. That's not part of your culture. That's never been part of your culture.
that's
This is
white supremacist patriarchal culture, if I would say anything about
Or-
that.
or to put another finer point on it, it's colonialism.
Mhm.
Pigs were forced on the people of Mexico and Latin America. They were forced. They were the 1-2 punch of colonialism, is the diet and the religion, and then we made money doing that, so it perpetuated, and then eventually we got really good at it through capitalism, and now we're forcing people to eat it through gestation crates. I guess doesn't seem right to me.
Four companies control nearly 70% of pork processing in the
Yeah.
US. Do you think those CEOs, the ones making money, are they Mexican? No, I don't think so. I
No.
think, yeah.
Yeah, and those
for,
and
like, yeah.
she's saying she's speaking from a they have to say ask her later, but they do ask her directly, are you a resident of California?
Yeah.
And she says yes. So she's trying to say that the Chicano experience is cheap carnitas tacos. That's BS. That's just BS. Yeah. So I found that really kind of, it's fun because it belies the fact, I think, that corporations are the ones perpetuating this cultural argument that
Yeah.
when you talk to somebody, it could be anyone, and they always do this. It's funny to me because they act like whites don't eat a lot of pigs and cows. It's always so funny to me when I talk to people of different races and they go, well, it's
Bacon is
my
the most
culture.
white thing food ever. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Bacon is super white, and so is burgers and steaks and all of these things.
Mhm.
It cracks me up when people who are non-white go like, "Well, it's my cultural heritage." It's like, I'm white. Don't tell me about cultural heritage. Like, we kill a lot of animals. Don't, like, it is white culture to kill animals, and every time they laugh, and it just goes to show that the corporations are the ones spreading this BS. They're the ones doing it. And that's why I think it came out of the mouth of her there. She was put up to that. It just has to be cultural heritage. Come on. It
Yeah.
kind of made me gag a little bit, Crystal.
Yeah. What's more cultural, like the bean, the corn, or the gestation crate produced pork? And should we be providing opportunity for more traditional Latino cuisine instead of white dominated colonial pig production?
Oh,
Like, what the
you just made a really important distinction there. Claudia Scheinbaum, she is saying that she wants to focus the Mexican agricultural machine more on corn and beans and coffee, and she's saying that these are our crops. This is what gives us nutrition. As Latinos, we need to go back to basics. And the Americans are saying they want to. This is part of the trade war, by the way, that the Americans are saying, well, if you do that, if you stop growing soy and substandard corn and some of these other things, these cash crops for American farmers, we're going to tariff you. You're going to face other repercussions. So it's like you're stuck in a rock and a hard place. We're forcing these other through threats, like honest to goodness open threats. We're forcing them to grow crops that they don't want to grow, like cultural heritage. Why don't you let the Mexicans grow what they want to grow and feed their own people? I don't know. I think Claudia Scheinbaum is a really interesting leader, and I can't wait to see what happens next. But she's getting a lot of pushback from the Americans. The next thing I saw was the dormant commerce clause. Do you know what that is, Crystal? The dormant.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
So this is in the Constitution.
Justice Gorsuch wrote the opinion for the court. While certain portions of the court's analysis were unanimous, others were fractured and complicated to parse. When struggling to explain this complex ruling to producers, I have frequently reminded myself, not even all 9 Supreme Court justices could get on the same page about how to properly legally analyze Proposition 12.
I love that so much. Not even all 9 can get on the same page. When have they ever? It's in my life, we've got a handful of where the Supreme Court has voted 9-0. I don't think it's so weird. Not even all 9 justices could agree, Crystal, which means obviously Prop 12 is wrong.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Okay.
In summary, the court upheld Prop 12 against the Dormant Commerce Clause challenge. Given the nature of the opinion, however, the broader takeaway and likely application to future cases is far more difficult to analyze and predict.
Okay, so this is my Velma character. I think she's great. She's very, very smart, and she has she's the legal mind on there. And they ask her a lot of hard questions, and she's great. I thought she was honest and straightforward. I think she's a little lawyerese there, but you expect that from a lawyer, right? She was one of the ones helping to bring the case to the Supreme Court. The Dormant Commerce Clause is a legal document derived from the Commerce Clause of the United States Constitution. It limits the powers of states to regulate interstate commerce, even when Congress hasn't passed specific laws on the matter. Essentially, it prevents states from enacting laws that discriminate against or unduly burden interstate commerce. What do you think about that?
Gorsuch said the judiciary was not the appropriate branch to
Yeah.
handle these kinds of claims. Congress would be the appropriate body to handle this issue, which is why we are here now doing this. The court ruling was 4 justices sided fully with the pork industry. 2 others agreed on the legal theory, but not on the facts presented. Gorsuch, Thomas, and Barrett said that courts should not be weighing these economic versus moral questions at all. So this is why it was a 5-4 loss for the pork industry groups. Congress is urged to step in and fix Prop 12.
But they'd have to pass a law to do it, is the issue. Because they'll have to pass a law that doesn't that would then be supreme over the law of Prop 12. So now they're trying to get legislation.
Which is why we're here now.
Yeah. They're trying to sneak it into the Farm Bill, but they're having a hard time. Congress can't really agree on anything lately, no less a Farm Bill, but we'll see what happens. Great stream. Love how you report. Keep going, says Sid. Thank you, Sid. Thank you for joining us. A new subscriber, Sid. Thank you so much for checking out All Beings Considered. We do this every Wednesday at 3. I bring on Dr. Crystal Heath. She brings me on her channel. It's a collaboration. We talk about what's going on in the animal world of politics and current events. Would that be a good description? I think so.
Of this show?
Yeah.
That animal related issues. I think animals, from a science focused lens.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
I guess we should have a clear mission and a strategic plan with this.
Well, I think that's
mostly
kind of what I said in the beginning. I said animal related current events through the lens of veterinary medicine or something like that. I think I said in the beginning. I think that's pretty close because we don't just talk about just any old animal stuff. We usually have pretty topical stuff that's going on like now. It's current events and this is political, whether we like it or not. So I didn't know you had a late night stream. It's not a late night stream. It's just a daytime stream for me. But here we are. All Beings Considered. Okay, so this one from to let everyone know what we're doing. If you're just tuning in, looks like we just had a spike in people watching. We are checking out the House Committee on Agriculture in their reexamination of Prop 12, which is a law that was passed in California, limiting the type of pork that can be sold in California. Right? I think that's pretty good.
The type of pork sold, not necessarily the type of pork, but just
the origin of the
pork from pork whose meat comes from pigs whose mothers were confined to crates less than 24 square feet.
Yeah, so whole pork chops, basically whole pieces of flesh, raw pork that came from animals whose mothers were in gestation crates. If that you can't sell that in California anymore.
Yeah.
And so they've had to make some adjustments. Now this law came to be a law. It was passed by our Congress in California, the state Senate and state Congress.
It was not passed by the California Congress.
Well,
it was a ballot initiative.
Yeah.
Passed by 63% of California voters, which only 20% of Californians voted, and so really only 13% of Californians voted for it. It was just a point that they wanted to make, but it was 63% of California voters.
63% of Californians. Yeah, and the way ballot initiatives work, like we put them on the ballot, we vote for them, and then the Senate and everyone, they still have to pass it. They still have to do all
they?
They still have to they still have to do basically a ceremonial. Like like the governor still has to sign it into law and stuff. The governor can veto it and subvert the will of the people.
Interesting.
It's happened a few times. Like remember when California passed, we had a ballot initiative to get rid of daylight savings time, and we still observe daylight savings time every year. Every year we do it still because they've not enacted the law. They still have to implement. It's like a
No,
like a ceremony.
it's California voter approved ballot initiatives don't go through the legislator or require the governor's signatures. Here's how the process works.
Yeah,
Citizens draft a proposed law, constitutional amendment. Once on the ballot, it is placed before the voter. If it passes by a majority, it becomes law automatically, effective the day after the election, unless it specifies otherwise. No legislative votes or governor approval are required. Legislative role is minimal. The legislature can't amend or stop an initiative before voters decide. They may hold hearings. One is required at least 30 days before the election, but they have no power to alter the measure.
They can't alter it. So why does it the state legislator still needs to Prop 7? So California continues to observe daylight savings time because despite a 2018 same year voter approved measure, Prop 7, the state legislator still needs federal approval to make daylight savings time permanent, and the approval has not been
Federal
granted.
approval.
Yeah, why do they still need that approval? Proposition
So
7 granted the legislature the power to change daylight savings
that's
time,
when you
but
have
it still requires
preemption.
2/3 vote in both the Assembly and Senate, and then federal approval. Why?
Maybe because there's some federal preemption, which is what they're trying to do with Prop 12. They're trying to federally preempt the law by putting in federal laws in place.
So Prop 7 says we still need 2/3 vote in both Assembly, and so we still need it in both our houses. Why do we still? And then federal approval. This is BS. Federal law prevents year-round daylight savings time, but they did it with Arizona. How come we're not doing it?
Anyway, we've gone a little far afield here. What I think it's important to tell people what they should be doing now that this is happening. And what I did was I sent a letter to my representatives informing them of this. And because right now, especially, how do I remove? I want to add my thing to the stage, but it's not letting me. It says you're sharing maybe I'll remove your screen. All right.
No, just let me
Add
drive for a
stage
second.
and
Just let me
remove.
drive for a second.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So I sent this letter, and you can send this to your veterinarian too, and encourage them to send this letter to their representative, urging people to oppose Section 12007 of the Farm Bill. You can copy and paste this letter below, but it just goes through the scientific data behind how this poses a threat to consumers who did not want this public health threat in their state. Campylobacter from pork causes 37,000 infections every year. And we know that pigs housed in gestation crates have higher rates of Campylobacter. The diseases that these pigs foster become more virulent because of the way that they're housed. So there's some discussion, I guess, here, like during this meeting, about whether the pigs confined to gestation crates used more or less antibiotics. But from the research we've seen, these pigs usually would need more antibiotics, and 27.1% of all medically important antibiotics sold in the US are used in pork production. And I think that there's an important point to be made here. Just because we take the pigs out of gestation crates doesn't necessarily mean that antibiotics use will decrease in the pork industry, and it might increase because the producers aren't doing it right. But that's all the more important why we should support policies that reduce pork consumption in California. And I think, the point that was made previously by how the sales of pork declined because of the cost increase is a good thing for Californians. And Californians probably want that, because that will mean less of these infections with diseases like Campylobacter and Salmonella in our state. So I also point out how the American Veterinary Medical Association is being weaponized by the pork industry, and how the vast majority of veterinarians do not support this. And in fact, 72% of respondents to a survey about gestation crates found them very objectionable. So the vast majority of veterinarians are against gestation crates. So I'll put this in the chat, and please do send this to your veterinarian. You could even like craft this to make it work. You can send this to your congressperson too, just as a non-veterinarian. Just take out language that identifies you as a veterinarian. But I'm all for more people slamming the AVMA, even if you're not a veterinarian. So
even if you aren't a veterinarian, slamming the AVMA is always a good idea.
I mean,
For
because
sure.
we just have to make it more widely known that the AVMA does not represent veterinarians. They're not a trusted source. This is just, they usually just spout industry propaganda. They're not science-based. They shouldn't be trusted. And instead, trust the veterinarians who are willing to suffer retaliation, lost career opportunities for standing up to the pork industry, the most abusive and powerful industry on the planet. So
all these industries, all these professional organizations, they always get co-opted by corporations now, and it's just like, I don't even know how you prevent that from happening. You know, these corporations come in, they just buy the whole organization, like the AVMA. They're not the only ones where they've had this happen. Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me also how many actually, because it did pass in 2018 and became law then, how many have already complied. And according to this, it's quite a few. So why all the hullabaloo?
I did see the letter from USDA this morning, and that indicated that USDA believes it's about 27% of producers have made those changes. The impact on them if Proposition 12 were to be preempted by federal law, right, so they've got the sunk cost of having already invested in making those expensive and complicated changes to their operations. And if the law changes at that point, they likely would feel that they had done that with no need, right? An unnecessary investment in those changes.
So in 7 years, of course, a ton of producers across America have complied and spent the money to upgrade their system to not use gestation crates. So just 27%, I say just, I mean, it's still a huge number of producers, right? Why do they get screwed? Does that seem right to you that they followed the law and all of these other ones shirked it, and they're just going to lose all that money that they used to comply?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
That what does morals get you? I mean, you're not, our systems don't incentivize producers trying to improve animal welfare. They only incentivize those who try to get the, you know, those who try to get away with the worst and fight any advancements in animal welfare.
But it's
That's
not like
what
these
our
companies
system incentivizes.
These companies weren't trying to like do right by the pigs, right? They're trying to follow the law. And here we're literally punishing the people who followed the law if what they want goes through. So law-abiding pork producers, which, you know, I'm not in love with them either, but they followed the rules and now they're getting, so what does that say about the future? Don't follow any rules. We'll change them later. Don't you worry.
Yeah. And don't do anything that's going to cut into your profits. You know, that's
right. Just ignore any of these laws. Well, I wonder, what if California just outlawed pork? I mean, I know that wouldn't really be able to happen with our, we're not going to vote that. Like that ain't going to pass the muster, right? But we could just ban it. Imagine something like that happening. That'd be so insane.
That's, I think, what the goal was. And instead they're like, well, let's try to do this instead because we can't ban it. This is the thing that'll pass likely. And it did. And now we've spent so many resources trying to protect it. And it's like, was this a good idea after all?
I was about to ask that. That was my next question, Crystal. What do you think? Is this a good use of resources? Prop 12, here we are now almost 10 years after its conception, you know, because it took so long to get through and all the signatures and all of the man hours and all the money. Is it worth it? Because now it might not even, I mean, I guess, what is it worth it?
I don't know. There's the argument that any time you do anything like this and mobilize people together to pass a thing, you're organizing people. So that's good. Like you're making a step forward. We're getting systems in place, connections made between people. And it brought a bunch of veterinarians together to write this amicus brief and like really look at the data and the science. And anytime you're having discussions about these things, progress is made, right? But
Mhm.
at the same time, I think those sorts of arguments ignore the fact that the industry is also mobilizing and they have gotten together and they have crafted their talking points. And now, if we were to poll veterinarians today, would most veterinarians be aligned with the industry and say like, well, yeah, we can't ban gestation crates. And that's a disturbing thing I've heard from a lot of veterinarians who have just bought the industry lie because they trust the industry more than animal rights activists, right? Have we gained more public trust? I don't know. It's
Okay, so
I
let
ho-
me proffer
yeah.
something a little. Let me just tell you from the feels. I know you hate the feels, but let me just give you the feels, the vibe that I'm getting off of this.
Mhm.
We're constantly told, do it the right way. And I've had it all. Like if I'm at the
Mhm.
I've done speeches and outreach on college campuses around America, and you'll invariably get every day somebody telling you, "Why are you here talking to college students? Why aren't you talking to Congress? Why aren't you doing this the right way and exposing these truths through our hallowed system, through the halls of Congress, those sanctified halls where all of our wisest representatives can make these decisions? Why aren't you there?" And so what my answer was always, well, we are doing that too. Like we have people doing that. Like there's lots of groups
Yeah.
who just do that. So we do it the right way. And where does that get us? It
Yeah,
gets
that
us,
doesn't got us anywhere. It's waste time. Yeah, in a lot of ways.
yes.
So,
And while watching this, I can't help but think of that JFK quote where he says those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And I know that's extreme, and I'm not saying that violence is the answer at all, but it does make me so frustrated that I'm like, clearly, the system is not where we're going to make changes for the disenfranchised and downtrodden. We just can't. If this passes, if not passes, if they reevaluate and undermine Prop 12, it just goes to show why have any faith in the system at all? The system's broken completely. It
yeah.
doesn't. Uh, that's where I think the real danger is. We already are living in a world where our faith in our system is completely eroded, nearly, and this is
Mhm.
just making me lose that last shred that I thought might still exist in my little American heart.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about those vibes? Am I going too far?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Wow.
It's in a lot of ways. I hope more people write about this and are talking about this. It's disturbing that we seem to be the only people talking about this.
Mm.
Nobody's talking about Prop 12 in a very thoughtful way and what this means for the animal rights movement in general. What are we going to do now? We can't rely on ballot initiatives and things like this. What is our strategy next?
What strategy? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like the radical again, but man, it's not leaving us many options. It just makes me think, okay, well, we tried to put on the suits, we tried to be nice about it, we did all the things you told us to do, and
Mhm.
well, I guess you got to put the balaclavas on again. I guess that's what we have to do. Get the bolt
No,
cutters out
we
again.
do not advocate for violence on this channel
Not
because I
we.
think
Not
that's
violence. By the
what
way, ALF wasn't violent, but yeah, they did extreme stuff. The
don't
balaclavas, not
we don't
violence.
advocate for any property destruction of any
No,
kind. That's just not what we're doing. Um,
no, but you
you
can
know,
see
there
how
are
it would push people to
yeah.
think in a direction that would be unhealthy because the system's
Mhm.
so unhealthy. It's pushing people to that. And then what'll happen when people do it, though, when people do commit property damage or those things, it'll be like, what are they so crazy? Why couldn't they have just done we have a whole system here just for them. They could do it the
But
right way.
there's like no public knowledge or memory of like the fact that people tried.
Yes.
There's no stories. Nobody's talking about the fact that people tried and what they went through to try to get this passed and how it failed and how there's those in power, the narcissistic Machiavellian types, always spin a narrative that they didn't actually do it the right way. Like
Yeah.
Prop 12 was all just pulling the wool over people's eyes, and only 20% of people or 13% of people actually passed it or whatever.
We
their
gave it to the
status.
voters and they spoke,
Yeah.
and this is the undermining of the will of the people. It's
Mhm.
just, it drives me crazy, man. I mean,
The gaslighting of it all is so
Yeah.
frustrating.
do you remember Prop 8? Do you remember that in
I don't know what that is.
in 2008? It was a big one because Prop 8, it made it so gay people couldn't get married in California. It passed. It made it so
Mhm.
same-sex marriage, it banned same-sex marriage in California.
Mhm.
And the voters were just like, well, I guess that's the way it is. It's so crazy. Like we were all, well, I guess that's the way it is.
I
Eventually,
guess
it
the
went through.
majority has the right to dictate the rights of the minority. I
That's
guess that's the world we live in.
You
What?
vote, you put it on the ballot. We voted for it. They dropped
Mhm.
millions, hundreds of millions of dollars at the time of its passing. It was the #1 ballot initiative in the history of America that had more out-of-state money. So a lot of people in Utah, a lot of people from Texas were pushing money into the Prop 8. It passed. But you might say, well, why isn't it banned? And why isn't gay marriage banned? It's because it went to the Supreme Court and it became it was unconstitutional to ban gay marriage. And so, but as we were working toward that, everyone was just like, well, the people voted, that's our system. Everyone's willing to do that unless you come after the big animal-based protein corporations. Then forget
Mhm.
it. No, the people. What do you mean these people? They're stupid. We can't listen to the people.
Yeah. No, there's always a narrative to defend whatever agenda you have. There's always a way to spin it, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
Um,
I completely. All right. So this one is this clip I thought was kind of interesting. It is, again, to discontinue the patchwork.
As well as our industry, of the continued potential of 49 additional states making mandates. And it's become, as my experience, and I mentioned in my question earlier, it's a challenge for us. And we would, so that's why we're looking at the opportunity to discontinue the patchwork is what a big challenge for us.
Discontinue the patchwork. That's all they want. They just don't want. They just want clarity. I mean, we need the federal government to tell all these states what kind of things they can buy, what kind of flesh they can buy. Makes perfect sense, right?
well, not what kind, how it's produced.
Well, I
Like,
guess, like, I mean, that
yeah.
does tell you what kind, isn't it? What do you? You're splitting hairs a little bit.
Well, I
Doesn't
think
that
the
mean what
kind,
kind?
as in like I don't know. It's a specific product versus how it's produced. Is, I don't know, different. So yeah, I think.
Well, I think we're also talking
But
about.
meanwhile, we're also banning
I was about to say that's why.
cultivated meat in other
Yes, exactly.
states.
That's
Like,
what I
how is
mean,
this?
Crystal. Yes. I was trying to get you to say that because we are dictating what kind of protein people are allowed to eat, where it comes from, how it's produced. And the people of Florida banned cell meat or whatever, any kind of what did they ban in Florida again? It was just cell
Cell
meat? Was
cultivated
it?
meat. Yeah.
Cell cultivated meat, lab meat. And they banned it. But that's okay. No one's fighting that.
Yeah.
What is this? What is the deal here? Can we get rid of that? If they overturn Prop 12 through legislation, won't that open up that can of beans?
No, because only those in power can open up that can of beans. And is the
Right.
Supreme Court going to hear these bans on cultivated meat? Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're gonna here. I think what'll happen is, well, I don't know what's going to happen with lab meat. We'll see. I think they should just let that go, but it's largely symbolic at this point, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, okay, so here's Holly Cook saying, I think this is kind of fun. She's gonna get told how business works.
when converting to
Okay.
Proposition 12. And then we also may have to spread those out over fewer pigs due to the productivity impacts of Prop 12. So that's on the farm level side. And there are certainly costs across the supply chain, packing, processing, distribution, and retail, all of the segregation and tracing and things like that. I don't have specific data on that topic, but those are certainly significant and should be considered as well.
Ultimately, any business has to have more dollars in than they have going out. And when the government passes rules and regulations that increase the cost of operations, whether it be in the construction of facilities as it is here for swine, I mean, if the farmer can't get their money back somehow, then the farmer goes broke. I mean, and I think that's the problem when you have people who either don't understand business or don't support agriculture or America's ability to feed itself, continue to imply these additional burdens on the producers. Ultimately, the consumer has to pay, or the producer goes out of business. I think, Ms. Rocha, this was effectively your comments, correct? I mean, if you increase the price of pork to the restaurant chain, if the consumer can't afford to pay for the product, then the product's no longer available. Your restaurant.
Now, I don't know what this guy's name is, but he does seem like he might be from Nebraska because he says restaurant like my grandma used to, but restaurant. So that's how business works. Do you think that that's pretty accurate? If the price of creating the good goes up, you have to pass that on to the consumer, so they have to pay more, or else they go out of business. What does that have to do
No, you can
with
have
America's
other
ability to feed itself?
you can have other methods of protein. Like
Yeah.
you can have other protein products available on your menu, and you should probably choose those other products. Yeah,
It's
it's
just,
I don't know.
it's just,
So
it kills me because, you know, I remember a while back they found out that there was lead in the toys coming from China, and people were like, yeah, but they're cheap toys, right? Shouldn't the market just decide? I know we got laws here that says you can't sell lead in children's toys, and China was selling kids' toys with lead in it, and poor people were buying those toys because they were cheaper. So I think this logic is sound. We should just you're allowed to sell whatever you want. The market will decide. There's lead in the toys. No big deal. Stop buying those toys after a few kids die. A few thousand kids die. Stop buying them. Why should we legislatively prohibit putting lead in toys, Crystal? It's business. It's just business. Silly.
Yep. States with active bans on cell cultivated meat. Florida became the first state to pass SB 1084 banning cultivated meat on May 1st, 2024. It is now illegal to manufacture, sell, or distribute it in the state. Alabama passed a similar ban in 2024. Violators face misdemeanors and potential fines. Mississippi became the third state to ban lab-grown meat in early 2025. Penalties include fines and jail time. Montana Governor Jan Forte signed HB 401 on May 1st, 2025, banning cultivated meat statewide. Indiana approved a 2-year ban beginning July 1st, 2025. Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen, a veterinarian and hog farmer, signed LB 246, banning the sale and manufacturing of cell cultivated meat beginning September 2025. And Texas passed SB 261, signed by Governor Abbott, effective September 1st, 2025, and it will ban the sale and distribution for 2 years.
So they can do all of that, but Prop 12 is the devil. Some reason.
Yeah.
All these states
and
can pass
nobody
laws.
made that argument. Not a single person that I know.
Well,
of.
because you know who's on that on the committee. I mean, there are only a couple Democrats on there, but the Jim Costa gave a good one. I did want to just at least play this about where the chairman says how stupid everyone voting is, how stupid the voting populace is, and we don't need to listen to them. Even though every time I do a stream, people tell me the voters voted, shut up, let Donald Trump do what he wants. Okay, well, the voters voted in California. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
It goes out of business. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my point exactly, and that is we're seeing that already just based on other regulations. So this would be yet another regulation on top of those that would affect the restaurants.
And you somewhat alluded to this. Are you a resident of California?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a resident of California. Yes.
And so California has public initiative. A lot of things go on the ballot. But do you think that the general public who voted on this understood what the end result was of this ballot measure when they voted to put it in place?
I believe that the law, as well intentioned as it was, I feel that the voters could not have known the impacts, and we see that a lot with our similar regulations. So, like I said, I don't think that the voters could have known the impacts of Prop 12.
So we need to subvert their will. I mean, that's perfect. That's a great precedent. I mean, there's a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump that didn't understand what they were voting for and what the impact of that would be. So we should just subvert their will at this point, right? Like, this is so frustrating. The fact that he has the nerve to say something like that. Do you think the people of California really knew what they were doing when they voted for this? Don't we need to protect them? This paternalistic, misogynistic, like, it's just, it's creepy to me. I hate it so much. I hate paternalism in government anyway. We gotta do this for your own good. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
You silly, stupid Californians. Jim Costa. I want to jump to Jim Costa. Is that okay?
Okay. While you do
The-
that, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
grab some water, and I have to get a new plug for my laptop because my laptop's dying.
Your laptop's
I need to-
okay. Someone came unprepared to the stream. Let's go. I'm gonna.
I was prepared, but then it stopped charging for some reason.
I'm just
but-
joking, Crystal. It's all right. All right. So
My time has expired. I now recognize, thank you all for your testimony and answering the questions. I now recognize Chairman David Scott from the great state of Georgia.
Thank you, Chairman.
great state of Georgia.
We have before us one of the most challenging issues that this committee is faced with. We've got to guarantee that the livestock is raised safely and humanely on one hand, and at the same time ensure that farmers and ranchers can be successful in operating their
This guy sounds like AI, right?
businesses. But there's something a little deeper here. We have a substantial burden on our interstate commerce and the implications that this may have on the producers.
What do you think, everybody in the chat? Do you think that we should have American government? Should we subvert the will of the people? Should we subvert the will of the people? We're reacting to the House Committee on Agriculture right now. What do you think? Do you think that we should subvert the will of the people and control the narrative of the pork producers should control all of this? The pork, we just hand it all over to them and not let the American people vote the way our Constitution says they can in California?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we should let the pork producers decide what we do. Let the pork producers decide
Let the
it all.
tobacco companies decide. Let the
Let them
asbestos
decide.
companies decide. How dare we? Do you know what we did to the industry when we banned asbestos? Like,
What do we do to the industry when we banned DDT? We banned all sorts of things in agriculture in California and said that you can't sell strawberries laced with DDT here. All sorts of, what'd you say, pesticide residue and all stuff like that. We've done it a bunch of times. You think people should have their say, period? I agree. I think we should have that on period too. A lot of Christians and Muslims don't eat pork anyway. Very true. But why should we allow the industry to dictate anything? They're supposed to be there to serve the people, not the other way around. We don't serve them. They're supposed to serve us. In 2018, this was passed. He mentions it here.
Everything for us, MPPC is a public policy.
Okay, well, you don't have a percentage that you know of. Okay, well, let me move on. I've heard from producers and companies, both large and small, that have invested in Proposition 12 complaint systems, not because they agree with or support Proposition 12, but because the law was passed in 2018, and they had a business decision to make. They decided to invest in a compliance system to supply a large market, and some of those producers have invested tens of millions of dollars. They faced nearly 5 years of uncertainty from the initial January 2022 implementation date. And when the Supreme Court ruled in 2023, they hoped that this was finally a settled matter.
This is the thing. they did this. They spent all this money. They complied. They followed the law in order to serve a large market, namely California. If you want to sell in California, you got to play the ball. You got to be what we want. What's the
If you
problem?
want to sell to China, you got to not use ractopamine.
Right.
Ractopamine. Say have to be ractopamine.
I like to call it ractogeno.
Okay.
Ractopamine. Yeah, ractopamine. They don't want to eat the ractopamine in China. So if you want to sell to China, you got to do something that costs a little bit more and not use ractopamine, because ractopamine fattens up your pigs. Kind of
or creates
artificially,
more
right?
meat, lean meat somehow. If you want to, this is what I was thinking. There's this whole, resist bot. We could make an open letter on resist bot.
I like it.
And that's how people can send it to their representatives here.
You could send it to your
I'll
representative.
figure that out later. Yeah.
Okay, so in here we have Jim Costa. Now he's a guy who represents the Tulare area, and he is someone that we talk about a lot. He makes more money off of animal ag than any other representative. He's a Democrat from California.
And requirement way that we see with Proposition 12.
Right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. With that, I yield back. Chair now recognizes Mr. Costa because Ms. Brown is allowing it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
That's what I was going to do.
I got you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank Ms. Brown for the courtesy of allowing me to go before her. Obviously, this is a hearing that impacts California, and I would hope to believe, as a third-generation farmer from California, that this isn't a morning to simply beat up on California. And I, with all due respect, am not feeling that the panel that we have here, as good as it is balanced in terms of the different points of view that clearly are involved with a lot of other elements of agriculture and farmers that have adjusted and are taking advantage of the opportunities that Proposition 12 provides. The hearing today, I think, is obviously focused on the grievances on Prop 12. And let me be clear, I did not endorse Prop 12. It was a measure approved by the people of the state of California in 2018. It has created a niche marketplace for producers but we also need to know that it wasn't fully implemented until July 1st, 2023, because of the litigation that took place. And in terms of the impacts on the market, while some studies have been cited, I don't think anyone cited the Oklahoma State University professor of economics, who indicated from an economic analysis I reviewed, there is no indication that Prop 12 has contributed to elevated pork prices at the national level.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Which
is also a loss for animal rights activists whose goal was to increase the costs of it. So
increase the costs of the nation at the national level, right? But
yeah, not at the national level. Yeah,
at the California is the largest 13% of all the pork eaten in in America is California.
In America, California. Yeah.
So if you increase the price of all of that, then it should somehow just make it more onerous to serve that market. But it didn't raise prices anywhere else, is what the study showed from the University of Oklahoma, which is not, as everyone will notice, not a California liberal organization, the University of Oklahoma. So I think Mr. Costa is interesting too, because his district is all mostly cows and chickens, and I think he brings them up here.
I want to insert that for the record. I think there are a lot of other elements that impact market prices, and let's start with tariffs. Mexico is the top valuation destination for U.S. pork. Last year, $2.5 billion. China is the U.S.'s largest market for pork variety meat by a value of $1.1 billion. Canada is the top market for U.S. processed pork and the fourth largest market for U.S. pork markets at $852 million. And of course, so what are we doing with Canada and Mexico? We're in a trade war. We're in a trade war. When in fact, in 2020, President Trump, after the conclusion of the U.S.-Mexico trade agreement, I think I remember him saying the best and most beautiful, greatest trade agreement ever known to mankind. Now we are in a trade war with our two biggest trading partners, Mexico and Canada, which accounts for about 40% of our trade, a lot of agricultural trade back and forth. It makes no sense to me. And by the way, that provision of USMCA had a good provision in it. It asked every 5 years for a review period. Guess what? We're in that 5-year period for the review period. Why not take advantage of that best, greatest trade agreement ever known to mankind that was signed by President Trump in 2020? This is a lot about political rhetoric. And I think this trade war goes to the heart of impacting American farmers. I'm a third-generation farmer. And I can tell you in California, we're most fearful about the impacts of our markets that we've established. 44% of our agriculture in California is exported. It's exported. And when we went through this scenario and Trump won, we lost market share that we still have not gained back. So the reality is we are losing markets largely due to uncertainty and inconsistency of this administration's inability to negotiate trade deals. 90 days, 90 countries, maybe here, maybe there. I don't know. But certainly the uncertainty and the confusion in the market space continues to lead to the questionability of the United States as a trading partner. And that impacts American farmers. It impacts California farmers. That's a fact. So it's a simple economic lesson. Less food being produced, less food being exported, more tariffs equals higher food costs. That's the bottom line. And tariffs are a tax on American consumers, American producers, American agricultural producers, and that relates to higher food costs. So I'd be remiss if I did not indicate that when we talk about Prop 12, when we talk about the other initiative, high path avian flu was largely responsible.
There we go. High path avian flu as well, right? He's playing all the hits for you, Crystal.
For the increase in the costs of egg production, and that gets overlooked. I mean, the impact of high path avian, we've depopulated 170 million layers, 30 million this year, and in California, 17 million. So I yield back the balance by time, but I think that we're missing the point here.
There you go. And he gets up and he leaves, which I think is also interesting. He gets up and he walks out. What do you think about all that? Should we? I think it's kind of a ballsy move saying this whole court's out of order. This is all just a kangaroo BS thing that we're doing. Prop 12 is not the culprit. It's Donald Trump. It's the tariffs. It's the trade wars that are driving up the prices, not Prop 12. This is ridiculous. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like
What about avian
I'm
influenza?
kind of ready to move on to the AVMA convention. If you're down to move on, I think we've beat this dead horse.
If you say so, okay. I had a
No, unless you've got other points to make. I'm just like, we're getting far afield from veterinary medicine here and more into politics, which is a little bit.
Well, avian influenza was one thing that you always like to talk about. Yeah. I mean, he talks about avian influenza being the thing driving up egg prices, not any kind of animal welfare standards. But sure, I mean,
well, there's it's more complicated than avian influenza driving up egg prices, of course, too. Like there were a lot of corporate things to do with that too. But avian influenza and these diseases do affect food security, and of course, dependence on pork puts us at risk too with the African swine fever. And maybe we should be thankful for legislation that encourages people to stop being dependent on pork from the restaurant level to the consumer level, because it could be any day now that African swine fever or another disease hits our pork producers.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, maybe the avian influenza was going to hit them next. Well, there was some stuff in there about the 4-H, which I know you like to talk about, but we can skip. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, and there was a lot of talking later on about legal standing of states' rights. But sure, let's go. And whether or not
I don't know. What do you guys want? Are you guys tired of hearing about Prop 12? Because I'm kind of bored with it. I listened to this for 3 hours this morning, and now I'm listening to it again. I'm like, oh, I've already drafted my letter. I've made my points. Are there points that I haven't made in my letter that I should have made? What should we talk about in an op-ed? Like now is a really important time to get op-eds out there. So I want to make sure that everybody who's watching has the material and arguments they need to draft their own op-eds and get this in the media. But
yeah, I mean, I think the there's certain things in there that are more important than just animal welfare, because I don't think that's what Prop 12 is going to end up standing on. I don't think anyone on that dais or anyone in that on the bench had anything I don't think they cared about animal welfare even a little bit.
Nobody cares about animal welfare or ethics. That's why I make economic and public health arguments, national security arguments. So.
Yeah, and I think that states' rights arguments is pretty important on this one. But but yeah, if you want to look at other ones, go ahead. I mean, look, someone's quoting Leslie Cross, the principle of emancipation of animals from exploitation by man. Leslie Cross. Yeah, that's
cool story, bro. Like, who cares about Leslie Cross and what Leslie Cross says? Because everybody wants to oppress somebody else for profit. Like, that's the way of the world.
Is it?
We all want to. Everybody nobody cares about ethics. Nobody cares about animal welfare. Those in power just want to exploit others for profit. So I don't know why we care about what Leslie Cross says, because people want to, use others for their own benefit.
Someone might be inspired by the words of Leslie Cross. I don't know. I mean, they did inspire. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who wrote Prop 12 probably care about stuff like that. I don't know. I think Prop 12 was probably written by well-intentioned people, but they're forced to make arguments in this whole like states' rights, interstate commerce, the dormant commerce clause, all these things, and we all have to learn them like kind of on the fly if we want to try to advance the ideas of animal welfare and animal rights, because we're living in the system, right? I mean, we're just kind of stuck doing that. But I'm sure that the people who wrote Prop 12 still, I don't know, they probably care about Leslie Cross and people like that, don't they?
I don't know. Do they, people? I don't care what Leslie Cross says, personally.
Well, I guess that's what I'm for. I'm the philosopher. I think it's important to understand philosophy and why we do the things we do. But you're right, the arguments don't always ring true when you're talking to people like Jim Costa, who's got a $400,000 paycheck from the animal ag industry. I don't think quoting Leslie Cross at him is going to work, I guess, is important to also realize, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the AVMA. You were there this weekend. You were at the AVMA convention. Do you want to tell everybody what the convention was like? I mean, was it a bit? How many people go to it, and are they all vets?
I don't even know. No, there's an RVT there who's friendly with us. So there's RVTs there, just industry people trying to hawk their products to people. But a lot of veterinarians, probably a couple thousand veterinarians. And the AVMA House of Delegates was there, of course, and they were voting on their resolutions and passing the resolutions. We wrote, statements about their sow housing resolution and their declaw resolution, which watch our other live streams for the deep dive into that. But the sow housing resolution basically didn't condemn gestation crates and could make producers be like, we're following AVMA guidelines and ensuring sow welfare in our gestation crates. And AVMA famously supported Section 12007 of the farm bill that they're talking about. So yeah, on one hand, you're making a resolution about sow housing, talking about how important it is to provide sows with all of these various things, while also not condemning gestation crates. And they also, didn't make a statement. They basically made a statement saying that they would not support bans on cat declawing either, which was, kind of disappointing. But
so you get to watch them all vote. So they're like, hey, how does everyone feel about all you House of Delegates? And do they do it like yay and nay like they do in the regular House of Delegates?
Yeah, and I could have, but I had to work. So I, it's usually pretty boring, and they usually are all just, go along with the crowd, and they don't argue too much, and they usually approve all of the resolutions anyway. So it's usually not that interesting, and you're not allowed to record it for some reason. They even kind of like look at you funny if you like show up and watch. But I encourage, more veterinarians to go and watch and to talk to your delegates. Only so we sent out those letters encouraging people to send them to their delegates. Only one person got back to me saying that they got a response from their delegate. So,
one person. That's why they don't want to. That's why they don't want you showing up at the House of Delegates vote, because then you'll know what they look like.
Well,
They
their
don't like them.
pictures are all online, so you can see if any AVMA member can log on. And as soon as you log on to the AVMA website, the first thing that pops up are your AVMA delegates and their pictures. So everybody knows what they look like. But there were some good things about the AVMA convention. One was the Animal Welfare Veterinary Education Joint Seminar. They discussed the welfare and ethics of animal use and alternatives to animal use in veterinary education. And, really started to question anatomy labs in veterinary schools. And do we really need to train students this way, where they have to learn 1,000 different body parts and on cadavers that are,
So
don't
is
really
an
look like living animals?
is an anatomy lab the same thing as a wet lab? Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
So there's wet labs, they've got cadavers, and they're so the question is, this can't be the best way. Is how else would you do it though? What's the better
They
way?
talked about we have to train core competencies. Like day one, veterinary students need to perform certain tasks. So it's kind of like the argument of some people say veterinarians aren't trained they only get 1 hour of nutrition education in their schooling. It's like, well, but every single class we talk about nutrition related to whatever disease we're studying. So we discuss nutrition a lot. And the same thing with anatomy. If we're discussing surgery and or a particular surgical procedure, or particularly a particular disease or whatever, that's when you study the anatomy of it. But first class of veterinary school, you're going to have to remember all of these body parts. It makes no sense. It's like a waste of time. You're learning all of these things with no context, really. So that's, what
Sounds like high school, like when I had to
argument is. Yeah.
remember all the bones in the human body. I just got to memorize them in alphabetical order or something, or I got to be able to point to the bones and just memorize them out of context, no idea of what
Yeah.
each one does, or
Or
it just seems like
memorize
rote learning.
the map of the United States and all of the state capitals. It's like, how
Yeah.
about learn it in the context of what's going on in various states,
Yeah.
so we
That would
know.
make sense. Learn a little history and then know the name.
Yeah.
Like what happened in this city? What happened in Birmingham? What happened in Little Rock, Arkansas? That would make sense, right? I mean, I think stories are how we memorize things, how we actually make them stick. So I think that makes sense. But I guess the question that I still have though, Crystal, is if they're saying that this is like in directly in relationship to the wet labs and the anatomy labs, and they're operating on these cadavers that are sourced from possibly questionable places. What's the alternative? What are they proposing?
Well, yeah, of course, using models, electronic tools, other alternatives, and ethically sourced cadavers. And there's tons of animals dying every day in modern intensive animal-based protein production facilities. We should definitely be using those animals who pass away for students to learn and understand, how did this one die, instead of purposefully breeding animals for students to be killed for students to learn on. So
that makes so much more sense, because you could learn so much through a necropsy than just killing a healthy animal and digging out their innards and naming those pieces. And that makes perfect sense to me. You would learn so much more, right? It sort of is kind of trying to learn the story of how the animal met their end. And then you can say, okay, well, it was this organ that did it, and be able to learn all the paths. That makes sense. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And the AVMA is interested in this, huh?
It seems so. So it seems like there's some progress there. But yeah, lots of other discussions about One Health. That was really interesting. And it was really good to see all of this talk about One Health. And one interesting talk that I attended was from a former veterinarian from the USDA who did a retrospective on SARS-CoV-2 and how we still don't know the origins of COVID-19. And he personally believes that it came out of wild bat populations and spillover from some sort of other intermediary animal, but like acknowledges is like, why
Pangolins?
did these, or the raccoon dog is the one, the penguin was like the early on thing that now we don't
Ooh,
think is
like
the
the
penguin. It's like the
the
raccoon dog is like the one of the ones we're
a
considering
tanuki?
now. Yeah, I'm not sure the
Oh,
name of
interesting.
it. But yeah, there's a lot of
I think
what were you gonna say?
no, I was
Sorry,
gonna
I thought
say,
you,
you know, just in Japan they call them tanukis. I don't know what they're called in China. I don't know. I don't know what they're called either. The raccoon dog. I know they got a name for it though.
oh cool. Well, yeah. I don't know what to tell you about that, but
so the AVMA is now saying that they're also concerned with I guess it's interesting to me only because like COVID and we're all crazy trying to figure out what happened to all of us in those, 5 years ago. But what's the prognosis though, doctor? Like what are they trying to determine at the end of the day that so if it's just spillover from bats, what can we learn from this?
well, this talk was talking about how we failed and what led to this lack of public trust in our public health officials was because we failed to acknowledge uncertainty about the virus's emergence and all of the things that we didn't know. And we had a lot of lack of transparency about a lot of things related to COVID. And we were just like, trust the science and do what you're told and wear masks and 6 feet apart, which like wasn't really actually based in science. And so at
Mm-hmm.
the end of this talk, I can't help but notice that a lot of the similarities that led to the lack of public trust in our health professionals during COVID-19 are happening again during this avian influenza outbreak. We're repeating the same patterns that led to this lack of public trust. Can you describe some of the mistakes that we've made during the avian influenza outbreak and what you would have done differently? And he said that, he agreed with me and discussing the challenges in communication and information sharing during avian influenza outbreak and the lack of information from the CDC and the NIH and all of these things. We need more testing, and he said it's not over. It's, going to continue. So yeah, he acknowledges all those problems. But we'll see if that actually leads to anything. And hopefully it seems like more veterinarians after I asked that question agreed and were frustrated by it. So hopefully there'll be more discussion about the corporate capture and how veterinarians are just being used to like foster consumer confidence in, the dairy industry.
Yeah, I mean, like veterinarians and scientists and medical professionals at large, writ large, they seem like if I think about what's eroding my faith in them, it's been forever this corporate capture, right? I don't really trust human doctors because I feel like I'm going to go and they're going to tell me to take this expensive medication and I'll heal a little bit faster maybe than I would have had I just never gone. It just never seems, or they'll say, yeah, you've got this problem, more diet and exercise or something. I don't know. It always just seems like they're honestly more interested in selling me something rather than making me having any kind of interest in my own health. And if it's not that, then then somebody else wants to use me as a political pawn of some kind, or have whatever's ailing me as a political issue. And I think the same thing is going on with veterinarians, and it's scary to me only because so many animals are at stake and so many people love animals. So it's going to affect all of us if we just allow them. And if we allow the veterinarians to be just swallowed up by by the corporations, who's next? I mean, I don't, maybe it's a science and altogether, maybe we won't have any trust in science after they're compromised.
Yeah, I mean, that's already the problem now. We have no trusted media, no trusted journalists that we can really,
Yeah.
who's going to like in an unbiased way report what's happening. It's really hard, and who are people to trust? So I get it. But what do? We just keep trying to get the truth out there and start having these conversations. And I think we can always celebrate the little wins, like having this discussion, this One Health discussion that was had at the AVMA convention on aquaculture and insect protein and lab grown meat was part of that discussion of what role veterinarians have in food security. And I think I didn't get a chance to watch that talk in real time, but I got to see the rehearsal, and they I it was I'm glad that that discussion about cell cultivated meat was had at the AVMA convention. We'll see what happens, but somebody did during the discussion session brought up the idea of trust, and like how they don't trust venture capitalists, and one of these speakers was a venture capitalist.
Yeah.
And you can't just like come in here and expect us to trust you. But it's weird because it seems like we just trust the people who've been around the longest, when those aren't really the ones we should trust. And instead we should trust those new up and coming people. Like, don't trust Cargill. Like, maybe you do trust the next generation who isn't entrenched, doesn't have those entrenched economic interests,
That's an
So
interesting point, right? Like, there is something in us that doesn't quite trust the Johnny come lately. You just fell off the turnip truck and you're day one trying to tell us how all our systems don't work. I mean, maybe you should stick around a little while and learn the system before you try to change it. But sometimes that person who walks in the door day one, they've got some pretty fresh takes, and maybe we should be listening to them. It's hard to, though, because it's like you've heard a lot of that. You've heard a lot of that over the years. If you've been kind of grizzled, you get that in the restaurant business all the time. Somebody will come in, day one employee who's never waited on tables before. They're like, well, how come it's like this? Why don't we do it this way? It's like, because, and you've got to explain like why all these things. And I've always felt like you need to explain to them when they raise those questions. But most managers are just like, well, this is how we do it, so shut up. So
yeah.
I guess that's the issue with the venture. But don't you think it's healthy to not trust venture capitalists, though? I mean, and what is the thesis of the venture capitalists when it comes to One Health? What are they trying to say? That the AVMAs or the veterinarians aren't trusting?
Well, I don't know what they tried to say, but the person who said, "Oh, you can't just come in here and expect trust." It's like, we all depend on animal agriculture here. So, like, I think they're worried about their economic interests going away. But of course, like, dude, your economic interests are going to go away with these various viruses of pandemic potential, with climate change. Now is a new, fresh opportunity to pivot and look to something that's going to enhance our food security. That's, if you have a restaurant and you have a menu, like maybe replacing eggs with animal-free eggs is going to make mitigate some of the cost fluctuations that happen.
Yeah, it might make your business more resilient. You won't have to worry about. You're absolutely right. Yeah. But making those changes and being the first one to make those changes is scary, right? Again, because we've always done it that way and it seems to be working. So why rock the boat? I get that. I love the idea of change. I love the idea of being on the cutting edge. I just don't think most people are so risk averse. I guess the thing is, they don't realize that we're living in risky times, and it's less of a risk. I guess what would you say that if we're speaking from a position of One Health, that switching over to animal-free proteins, like especially things like eggs, where people don't even ask, they don't even know the difference, or cow-free milk, they don't know. When you do those types of things, it makes you less risk averse. It's actually makes you less vulnerable to risk. It's a pretty good argument, don't you think? Maybe we should be making that more often.
So. And a lot of these dairy producers they're taking these big risks, investing in new milking robots, and spending it $200,000 to do that, per milking robot. Like maybe they should look at this. This is what's happening with cow-free milk. But I also talk to the venture capitalists. Like, I'm not totally convinced cell cultivated meat is the future when we already have cow's milk made without cows, and that's not on every menu yet, and that's not in McDonald's, and it's not in schools, and maybe we should really focus on getting that everywhere and killing the dairy industry, and then that would make other things, that would affect the beef industry too, since most beef is dairy cows.
Absolutely. I think that's such an important, that's like an argument for, look up, well, first of all, for McLovin, we debated earlier, now brothers. Well, that's why we do these shows. Crystal and I argue every day too about this stuff, or every time we're live. We're supposed to get through the dialectic, come together and learn more from each other and walk away better people. That's the whole point. So I'm glad that you're here, Sid. Thank you for watching the podcast. I think about when you said that, Crystal, it kind of brought me back 20 years where people were saying that when no one knew what Beyond Meat was back then, but they would say things like, when something like Beyond Meat comes out, that everyone's just gonna eat that. Why would you eat a bloody piece of animal who you had to harm when you could just have Beyond Meat? And once it's the same price, what's going to hold you back? And so here we are. It's roughly the same price. It's better for you. It doesn't harm animals, and we haven't adopted it. So I feel like this cell-based meat thing, I just don't think it's the future, because I don't see people adopting the options that are already there.
Yeah.
And Beyond is good. It tastes good. I don't know, it's great. So is it possible? Impossible tastes so much like animal. The first time I had it, my stomach tightened because I was thinking, oh my God, did I accidentally eat an animal? Am I going to get sick?
Yeah.
That's how real it tastes.
But the industry does a good job of framing Beyond and these other things. It's highly processed, and we just are like, oh, okay, that's highly processed, and we're going to give you cell cultivated meat. Of course, that's being banned in all of these states. So they're always,
and it's even scarier. It's totally scary. I'm vegan, and I think it's scarier to eat something grown in a lab because I don't trust it, because it's new, and I'm not saying I never will. I'm not going to stay closed-minded about it, but it's weird. It's different, man. I don't know if I'm into growing cells in a petri dish that turn into chicken tenders. I don't know. So it just seems like we're moving the goalposts in a way that's just. This venture capitalist, is it going to help? Is it really going to help? Is that really the future?
Or are we just going to throw billions and billions of dollars just down the tube?
Down the tube.
And especially
just like they
don't
did.
have any government support backing behind it. You need some government money to match what you're investing in. And that's what Elon has taught us. He's not going to go do a big venture without making sure the government's also going to cover some of it and have contracts and all of these things. So, I think
totally. And Bill Gates says he wants to save the world through business, which is why he's such a big investor in Impossible. But I'm sure he feels I'm sure he does, right? Damn it, we gave you a way to save the world, and all of you guys are just letting it rot on.
And now Bill
shelves.
Gates is trying to build more modern, intensive animal-based protein production facilities in Africa as a way to solve hunger in Africa. So that's
because I think it's because he and his investors realized that the impossible meat promise was a lie, and I believed it. I think a lot of people believed it, and now I'm supposed to believe this new lie about cell-based. It's even more far-fetched to me.
Yeah.
It just
but how do we talk with people who do disagree with us? If you were at the AVMA convention and you came across a exhibit that was pro animal and they asked you, hey, can I talk to you about how important animals are for medical research? What would you say to them?
I'd say, tell me. Yes, tell me
Yeah.
how important they are. Please, I'd
And they
love to know. I'd
hear
love to learn.
their spiel about it and tell you all of the great advancements that have come from animals. And then what? Where do you go
Like
from
what,
there?
polio or like what's the thing? Like
Oh
you're
my
is it
gosh. Should I like I can pull up their exact words here if you want me
I'd love
like
to know
because
what
it
they
was
said.
just like
I'd love to know
a
their
bunch of stuff that I hadn't. I'm like,
Wait, but
okay,
hold on.
great, whatever.
First the question is, can I tell you all the great things we get from animals? Is that what they're like? Okay,
Let me
I'd
pull
love to
out the
know.
exact thing.
McLovin says they would try Petri meat, LOL, but I'm weird. I don't see 95% of people being down with it. I'm not really down with it because it still uses, as of now, it still uses animals. What we're talking about, cell culture meat. Now I know there's other ones that don't, and blah blah blah. And I don't think we need to waste 3 hours on that. We've had those conversations, but yeah, have you read the labels on Beyond Meat? I've read the labels on Beyond Meat. In fact, the CEO was at AVA, and he was saying that all of the criticism of Beyond being highly processed and stuff, he was welcoming it. He said it's great because we'll make a better product now. And now he says that Beyond Meat is about as highly processed as pasta, and no one considers pasta a highly processed processed product. And so I think, and plus now it's all organic and all. They've doubled down. They said, okay, this is what the market says they want, then they're going to give them what they want. Why have those arguments?
Yeah.
So now it's less processed and it's organic. So what's the argument against it now?
So, okay, back to the
Give it to me.
experimenter. They say, how are you? Do you want to learn about how animals are critical in developing life-saving medical advancements? I'm like, sure. I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you guys think of the new NIH move away from animal? Yeah, it's awful. We're not ready. We're not in a place where we can completely move away from 99% of research we do as veterinarian working with these amazing creatures. Of course, we're advocates for things like the 3 R's, alternatives to animal testings and whatever possible. Sure, we definitely push researchers to do that. And we have that voice and that stance, but we're not at a point where like efficacy and toxicity testing can be done without the help of animals. And okay, so like toxicity testing, but even we're not in a place where we have complete knowledge of body systems. We don't know how things like ocular blindness occurs, right? Like from the occipital lobe, we're still understanding how nerves talk to each other. We're still understanding why things like Parkinson's happen. So basic research, these animals are instrumental into learning how these proteins in the brains, and they're fascinating and sad and it's interesting. And I'm like, well, I heard, from people from like other talks, like there was a neuro-oncologist here, and she was like, yeah, research hurts our field, and you can't translate, certain models to certain models who
humans.
That. Oh, and then she just like jumps in and is like, who was that? I'd be interested.
98% of the time. 98% of the time fail.
So many that was hurting the field and like, all that stuff.
So what did you say? You said I heard. So were you?
No, she like jumped in and she's like, but the thing about mouse models is that we're at a point where like SOD, one genetically altered mice have found a treatment for ALS. Are you aware that we don't have the population of animals representing Lou Gehrig's disease to try treatments and developing targeted certain gene therapies, even in a small cohort of animal clinical trials, or to move that up? We just don't have those resources. So being able to manipulate some of these animal models to target the proteins and the enzymes we're looking at, that how we are coming up with these cures and these treatments, and then you create these targets, you test that compound to a point where we're seeing efficacy, we're diminishing the toxicities and the off-target toxicities that we then move into our human clinical trials. We test them in the safe and healthy humans, moving on to the unhealthy patients. And then there's a whole range of new technology like antibody drug conjugates for oncologists specifically, where you can create this antibody that links to your oncodrug, your chemo drug, and that antibody is targeted to whatever is overexpressed in the tumor. So you're offset off-target toxicities are greatly reduced, but we only know that because of full system testing. So to get like either pet client-owned animals to participate in this, I think what was
That's
her,
a
like
mouthful.
I
That's a
brought up
lot. So
so she's just like, spewing her facts at me.
she's rehearsed it.
And
Yeah, she's rehearsed this. She's been looking for someone like you.
yeah.
But Crystal
so-
so at the end of the day, she's saying that we don't have enough animals that have Lou Gehrig's, so we need to create more animals, need to bring more animals into life, give them Lou Gehrig's through manipulative measures, somehow doing I don't know how, and somehow to get them to have Lou Gehrig's, and then we can test these drugs on them, and then we can test those on humans who are healthy, and then we can test them on sick people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't make
And
any
of
sense
course,
to me.
they would love to not have to test on animals, is what they say. But people the society demands this, and we are just
Society
giving
demands
society
it.
what they want. You can't tell somebody with a sick person that no, we will not find a cure for you because we don't want to test on animals. Like that's kind of like what their argument was. But I did bring up the fact that like, okay, that's all great, but and I'm not even going to broach the argument of like, it's just wrong to exploit another species for our own benefit, because humanity is at the point where we're fine with exploiting others, even human beings. If
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do it to humans
can
all the time.
benefit, this is fine. But I did bring up terminal labs in veterinary schools. Like, how do you feel about that? And would your group be interested in joining us in convincing veterinary schools to use other alternatives instead of killing animals? Because that's not needed. We have better ways of teaching where we don't need to kill animals. Students can learn on animals who need various treatments and procedures under the guidance of experienced surgeons. That kind of like, oh, well, yeah, I'd have to look at that. Maybe, and, we exchange information, but it'd be interesting to ask them, if she's obviously like rehearsed her stance on animal experimentation and is used to talking to lots of animal rights activists. But I'm curious, like, what does she think of like foie gras or elephants
Did you
in
ask her?
zoos or the fur trade? I know I had already gone on too long, but I think it'd be a good thing to go to these conferences and ask these people what they think about these other things,
But
and see if,
usually
like,
they
because
don't like those things. Just like when I had the beef farmers come to me and they saw the display about animal testing, they thought that was horrific. But they're cattle farmers, and they'll gladly slit the throats of animals, and they'll say, "Well, I'm doing something that's unnecessary. That is necessary, but difficult but necessary, right? I'm feeding America. They're not feeding America. What are they doing? Just experimenting on random stuff on these animals? That doesn't make any sense. You
Yeah,
can't do
and
that."
so they say like what they're doing is absolutely necessary and stuff, but like it's foie gras, and they want to move away from it as soon as they can. But like, is foie gras necessary? Is cat declawing necessary? Like, I'd just be interesting to see where, like, these people potentially be like really good advocates for other animal causes. I don't know.
That'd be pretty
But
amazing. I think maybe it's a hard thing to do with the allies. How are you going to get those? It's an interesting thing. Sid says that he's quitting meat Quitting meat today. So
got
I always
one.
applaud. I always applaud people who are going to no longer participate. Thank you.
Is
I think
Crystal
that's good.
streaming as well? No, I'm not streaming.
Crystal is streaming on all. I think
I'm-
she means on your channels. Crystal is streaming on Twitter or X, YouTube, Facebook, and her LinkedIn. 2 Facebook pages, a LinkedIn, and 2 Twitters and a YouTube. So she is definitely 2 YouTubes. She is streaming towards. So please go to her socials and please like and subscribe, especially on the Crystal one or the Our Honor one. We'd love to get some more action over there. Yeah. What is her stance on? Okay, well, you want to take a question from the audience since we're talking
Sure.
about operating on animals. What is Crystal's stance on spay and neutering?
I'm against it.
No, you're not. What are you talking about? Why do you say that? You know, someone's gonna take that and they're gonna post that.
People gotta like look that would be hilarious. Crystals against spaying and neutering. Meanwhile, like that might start a good controversy. Then people would like post all my videos of me spaying and neutering. That might drive some engagement. So yeah.
McLovin says
Um,
they've just subscribed to you and that they found you through
Okay.
my channel. So that's awesome. But okay, could you answer seriously, please? Not everyone knows you as well as I do. That you're not that you're just
I'm
joking.
yeah, and we know vegans and animal rights activists have no sense of humor, so and they don't get sarcasm. But I'm a big fan of spay and neuter, and that's like most of my work. That's how I get my money is I spay and neuter, like 100 animals a week or more. So
Right. I mean, I've watched Crystal single-handedly spay and
if you
neuter
watch,
many animals, and
if
she
you go
does
to any
so.
of my social media, you'll see my stance on spay neuter. It's
Yes,
like
go
all my
find out.
yeah.
She is. I think that I don't want to speak for Crystal, but I think that she holds a similar opinion to me that spaying and neutering is the most effective campaign for animal welfare in the history of animal welfare. It's helped more animals than any other campaign. Popularizing the idea that it's necessary has greatly reduced free roaming cats and dogs. We need to keep at it because every time we let up, we see really, really horrific consequences.
So back to talking to industry shills. Are you in
Yes.
favor of talking to industry shills, or do you think it's a waste of
Yes.
time?
No, I'm in
Okay.
favor of it because I think that people still have humanity. It's dangerous though, and the reason why I think it's dangerous is these alliances sometimes can become so unholy that you can end up compromising your principles. And I think and not through no fault of our own, we can try to find common ground to the point where we end up acquiescing and compromising in ways that we would normally be uncomfortable with, where what we're trying to do is to get them to find these piecemeal, I don't know, these piecemeal ways to get involved in helping animals because they're powerful. It's so dangerous. You see this with
Yeah.
like people in
I lost you for some reason. I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear him? I don't know what the deal is. Can't hear you.
I'm
No, I
back. Are
can
you
hear you
with
for
me? Can you hear me now?
yeah. Now you sound all robotic, but it's like bad audio, like
robotic.
you're through your computer or something.
I'm sorry. It is through my computer.
second. And
There.
now I should be in good.
Okay.
Sorry. I was saying that in Germany we had these like the Green Party, and everyone was really happy that the Green Party was winning seats in the Bundesrat and Bundestag. They were winning, and then the Secretary of State was a Green Party person, and it turns out like when they're in that system and forming all these alliances and political alliances, they end up compromising to the point where they're unrecognizable to where they started, and it's because of those compromises they've made over time, they end up agreeing to stuff that you would just never agree with. You know what I mean? It's hard. So I guess like I could say yes, I'm totally for it, but I think with a caveat emptor, buyer beware. Be careful of the company you keep, right? That's an ancient it's ancient. It's hard.
Yeah.
What do
But
you
it's
think?
hard. It's like these people are not really challenged, and I think we don't look at specific studies enough. They convince themselves like the study they're doing is really important and advancing stuff. And few people like dig into we just talk about generalities. 95% of experiments fail, when they're like, no, but it's really important because that 5% is super vital. But like how many lives will it take and how much expense when people don't have access to medical care, but we're spending billions and billions of dollars developing these new treatments, but not providing diagnostics to the people and animals who need diagnostics. So what might we find if we, reinvested into that? So I think we need to have more of those discussions. Like, where is the best way? What is the best thing for our funds to investigate? And then
Yeah,
the industry does seem to cannibalize itself at all. If they sense blood in the water from certain labs, then they're like, oh yeah, I work at a good lab, but that lab in
that lab,
Vigo
yeah,
or whatever, that was
notorious. Yeah,
horrifying. And
yeah.
it's like we just need to find more of that. If they aren't working in a lab where there's monkeys with pus coming out of their heads with screws, they think, oh, my lab doesn't look like those PETA pictures, so I must be working at
Yeah.
a good one.
And that's where we get like why we need to attract whistleblowers, because they need to see, when they do see stuff, they need to say stuff. Like, what justifies work is so important. And I think conversations are extremely important. And I have to I struggle because I think, okay, first of all, situational awareness, I think, is the most important thing, right? You can't talk to a person of science the same way you talk to a person about slavery and stuff like that, right? So when I did my anti-vivisection tour, I talked with people who were vivisectors. They would come up and they want to talk, and I'd say, yeah, I try to keep an open mind, and I learned so much from them, and it actually made me a better activist. I got a lot out of those conversations. And maybe that's, and I don't know how much, but I think what they got out of those conversations after we shook hands and said goodbye were that, hey, not every person who cares about animals is crazy, and actually some of the stuff that we're asking for is pretty modest. It's making modest changes to help animals, and that we want to work towards a world where we're not using them. And I got a lot of, I don't know, Crystal, I feel like those are difficult conversations to have, and I don't know that everyone's up for it. I know you are, and I know I am, but I also feel like, man, it's so dangerous being friends with Nazis. Not that they're all Nazis. That's not, I guess
Everybody is a Nazi, though. Like, that's
everybody
the
is a
thing. You have
Nazi.
to
You're right.
realize.
You're
You
right.
have
You're
to be
right.
able to turn on your friends, because you're the most charming person in your life who's like such a good friend could be a child molester. And if a child comes to you and says, like, dude, that person groomed me and molested me, you have to be willing to say, like, yeah, I bet my friend who I've known for so many years, who is so charming, probably could have possibly done that. I think we all have to realize, like, our friends who we know and trust are capable of doing horrible things. And we have to believe people who come to you with concerns.
We have to take them all seriously, for sure,
Mhm.
and do our due process to figure out what the truth is, right? But when it comes to like talking to government shills, not government shills, sorry, industry shills who are kind of in this lockstep, are you really gonna be the cycle breaker? Are you really gonna disrupt that cycle that they have been built up? Like,
I think I already have in so many ways. I'm just like looking at the veterinarians who are like liking my Facebook post now and being like, I remember when we used to fight. I remember like when you
Yeah.
thought I was a crazy animal rights activist. Now you're liking my stuff and so thankful for what I'm doing. And so I think, just getting these people like to follow my social media is like I'm able to like every day just like foster a little bit of doubt in their mind about what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I don't know how we're going to be able to. I met that honest to goodness Nazi a couple weeks ago, and a guy who like actually identifies as one, and I think I got something out of it talking to that person, but I don't think he got much out of talking to me. It's not like he changed his mind or anything. I don't know where we go with some people that are so far gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. You can't waste your energy on people who are gone, but just if you pass them, like say your thing and then have a discussion, but then like move on. Like what can you do sometimes? But
Yeah, absolutely.
anyway, moving on from that,
You just
there
you just
was
keep trying.
yeah. You're coming in and out all the time with your sound. Like sometimes you sound like you're talking through your computer. Sometimes you sound like you're talking
I
through the
know,
mic.
because I
I don't.
accidentally hit the cable.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to do both. I accidentally hit the cable that connects my stupid mic, and I
Okay.
disconnected it. And then while you were talking, I was reconnecting it. But I heard everything you said. But I know that I should be coming in clear again. And I'm just not going to touch
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I
No, sounds
was
good.
kind of I was. I guess you just keep trying, right? And I guess I think it's so important. We saw someone here that was saying that they're going to quit eating meat. Who knows? I hope the Sid is being truthful, but that was the same person that says that they were fighting with someone in the chat and is now they're brothers or something like that. Maybe that's what we need to foster that. We need to keep open minds and have conversations and not count people out. And I guess it's just I want to believe that we can talk to people and we can have real work can happen when we're talking and we're butting heads and we can figure things out together. But I do want to make people aware and have a little bit of reluctance only because, or just be circumspect because I don't want them to give up their own principles. They're so important. We need to get people to live by those principles, and then they'll be more resilient and have those conversations, right? That's all I'm saying. I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Yeah,
But
so many of the vegans and animal rights activists who are like fighting for welfare reforms and cage free, like spending an afternoon telling crumble cookies to go cage free. It's like, oh my gosh, what a waste of activist resources. But whatever.
But I want
Um,
to be friends with those people because I'm hoping that they'll show up to other stuff. I think about that when I go to human rights protests. I think, okay, well, hopefully I'll meet somebody that will be with me. We have to build community, and that community starts by talking to people that we disagree with. That's how communities are built.
and
We
maybe
got to love
they'll
our
have a
neighbors.
protest of telling crumble cookies to go egg free. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe they will. Maybe they'll join up. Maybe. Who knows? Or maybe they'll just get you to sacrifice your own principles and join them. That's the problem. That's the issue, I suppose.
So back to the AVMA convention, there
Yeah.
was one talk that I did not attend called "The Role of the Veterinarian in Animal Welfare," and this was by somebody who is a diplomat of the American College of Animal Welfare. And somebody told me about this talk afterwards and said like it was basically they railed against animal rights. And I'm like, oh, it's too bad I didn't go to that one. But their handout says animal rights implies that animals have rights that are immutable and cannot be infringed upon by the needs of humans, whereas animal welfare acknowledges the human and sometimes consumptive use of animals and seeks to balance that use with the needs and treatment of animals. And I spoke to some of the other American College of Animal Welfare folks about this, who basically said, like, this is old school thinking. But I just, that framing
Why
of
is it
like
old school
animal,
thinking?
just that anti-animal rights thinking, that's just the old guard. Like, I think there's more veterinarians who acknowledge the fact that animals have rights already, and the idea that we're animal welfare versus animal rights is just an outdated way to think about this. And even some animals have more rights than some humans do in a lot of ways.
Some animals have a lot more rights than humans do. I mean,
Yeah.
geese can fly over borders and I can't without permission. So, I mean, I agree with that sentiment, that we're all kind of living in a hierarchy, that we're all subjugated. We're all we're all victims of tyranny. But hey, the whole animal welfare versus animal rights thing, it's interesting to bring it back to the original where we started with, which was the House Committee on Agriculture review of Prop 12. Almost everybody in that room gave some lip service to animals deserve the highest welfare available to them. They kept saying stuff like that, right? They still think they belong in gestation crates, and if we don't have them in gestation crates, then they might actually suffer more. We don't want them to suffer. They would almost everybody said that. And so the question to me is like, then why do they deserve moral consideration at all? And isn't that what the animal rights person and animal welfare person, what they're both actually saying is that they're individuals who deserve moral consideration? Isn't that the crux of
Yeah,
it?
but
The
one
basis?
person says we have a right to exploit them, and in theory, and another one does not. But we exploit human beings too.
Yeah.
So that's, so what are rights? It's
What
their
are right?
entitlements, permissions granted and protected under law, which allows individuals or entities to act in certain ways or be treated in certain ways, and to seek remedies when those entitlements are violated.
Well, those are legal
So
rights. I mean, we have
did
moral rights
we?
too.
What are moral rights?
Moral rights being inviolable rights that exist in nature, whether or not they were given to you by God. Things like life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, kind of natural law theory, enlightenment theory ideas of enlightenment thinking ideas of you're actually born with rights and that others have to take away those rights from you, but you had them all along, that you always had them, that you don't need to codify life as a right. You have that right by virtue of your being alive.
Yeah. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, all men only, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and among those life, to liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed, that whatever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. I think the animals have done that.
I think yes, this is like, I love that you just read that out loud. It's something that we grew up with, and to me, this is anything that is against that is anti-enlightenment thinking. Like that is an encapsulation from good old Madison, Monroe, and Jefferson, and those guys. That is an encapsulation of enlightenment thought. That is what it is that government should only be there to ensure our natural rights. Anything else, an abridgment of those rights, we should do away with government. There should be none. It's practically, it's damn near anarchist, damn close. Of course, and then they make the whole constitution and it's not, but still, like, it's a big idea. And so it's not just what we codify into law. The rights of animals, they do have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We have to take it from them in order to exploit value from their lives, their liberty, and their happiness. We extract value of those things instead in the form of money.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. Sounds like corporations are doing that. And
the king, King George. Yeah.
But in today's times, how is this happening to us right now? Through these corporations are doing that to us.
Same story. I mean, multinational corporations were invented by the English in order to subjugate the Indians, not the American Indians, but the Indian Indians, and it worked. They started these giant corporations and banking systems to fund it, and gave them the privilege to declare war on their behalf. It was crazy. We're doing the same thing. Is not BlackRock declaring war on our behalf? Is not Chevron and all these other companies, aren't they declaring war on our behalf by their hiring of mercenaries in other countries? They are. And what we're doing to the animals is the same thing. So I think
the lack of animal rights helps preserve corporate impunity. And it hurts both ecosystems and human communities. So the same industries that exploit animals often exploit migrant workers, prison labor, low-income communities. They're all tools of profit for them. So, and we've continued to let them deny our rights, like ag-gag laws. Like now we we don't have freedom of speech,
We allowed them to take away our
Because
freedom of speech, which is our God-given right. I can speak, and therefore I have the freedom to do so. Like that
Mhm.
would be an inviolable human right. That's why we had to put those in the commandments, the amendments.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. It's like those corporations. What we're really arguing about with Prop 12 and all that. They in the beginning, I kind of skipped over it, but they said it was going to cost between $3,500 and $4,500 per sow
Yeah.
of an investment, a one-time investment of about $3,500 to $4,500 per sow.
And they never should have been allowed to put sows in those gestation crates to begin with, and now
Yes.
they're like complaining that it costs them money to do something to get out of something that they never should have gotten into in the first place.
To me, that's what King George was doing when he told Americans it's going to cost us all this money to pay for you people to free the slaves. It's going to cost us all this money to free all the slaves. Well, you shouldn't have been enslaving people. You shouldn't have been treating colonists this way. You shouldn't have been treating people in India the way the Raj was treating them. You shouldn't have been doing that.
Mhm.
It's so weird that they put themselves in these positions through these draconian and just like Machiavellian ideas of how to ruin and use people and animals. And then when you're like, hey, stop doing it, they're like, well, we can't. It would cost us too much money.
Yeah. It's like you've already violated another's rights. And
Right.
now
That's what got us into this
you're
trouble.
stuck in this system. So it's also
Because it's too expensive to not be in the system.
Yeah.
No, it just means that pig flesh will be more expensive. That's all that means. We'll still eat. Human beings will still eat. They just won't eat as much pork because it's more expensive. And it should have always
Mhm.
been. It was artificially cheap.
Yeah.
It's kind of like someone a long time ago was talking about like clock radios made in China, right? And like, if you can buy a $5 clock radio with all the little transistors and all the little digital assets and all the all of the minerals that were mined, all the metals that were mined out of the earth and all this stuff, and now you have this clock radio that you bought for $5 at Walmart. Well, how did it get to be only $5? Like, what happened to make it only $5? It's incredible that this piece of technology is so cheap, and it's because
Mhm.
because all those steps that I just described, like mining the minerals and and putting the thing together and all the manufacturing, well, it was slaves. Like all that value is now going to Walmart and whatever the supply chain was. All the people who were used in that process, they were slaves basically. So now you can
Yeah.
buy a $5 clock radio.
Okay. Because we've denied rights to
Yeah.
others, and occasionally we give those rights back, like through the Endangered Species Act. We say that
We
some animals, some species cannot be legally killed, harassed, trapped, or traded, and we have to protect their habitats. But meanwhile, there's indigenous communities like the Navajo Nation, where uranium mining left over 500 abandoned sites and contaminated groundwater with uranium and arsenic and, um, my other gold mine spills and things like that. Then you have the people in Duplin County, North Carolina, near the hog farms who suffer from 30% higher mortality rates and these high rates of horrifying air as they spray the sow poop, the
Yeah.
hog poop over their fields and everything.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, but this industry is so wealthy. How can you now shut down this industry to protect these people who aren't very economically important, I guess, to it? And
It's like
ultimately,
when you
the
catch
industry
them doing
wins.
Yeah, it's like when you catch them doing something really horrible, they go, "Well, we got to keep doing something really horrible. Look at it costs too much money to do it otherwise." Imagine doing
Mhm.
that in any other situation, like this person is robbing liquor stores, and you're like, "Well, you got to stop robbing liquor stores." I can. It would cost me so much more money to go get a suit and put on a tie and go get a job. What do you want me to do? It's far too much effort. I could just keep robbing liquor stores. Why are you making me? The system. This is the system. I rob liquor stores. That's what I do. I can't change
Yeah.
now. But speaking of change, I did want to kind of go into just for a second the price of beef. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So the price of beef is up, Crystal. Beef prices have soared in the United States, and not just during grill season. This is something on the AP that came out a day or two ago and written in Omaha, Nebraska, saying that everyone is paying a lot more money. The average price of pound of ground beef rose to $6.12 in June, and that's a 12% increase from a year ago. Steaks, uncooked beef steaks, rose 8% to 11.49 cents a pound. Here are the graphs so you can kind of put it into perspective. Ground beef up. Uncooked beef steaks way up. I don't know what happened here. This is June 2020. So you could see COVID levels. You see this spike right here, right? And then everything else is just kind of going up the old-fashioned way, but not the old-fashioned way from supply and demand. It's not like more people want steak and that's why the prices are going up. It's because the cattle herd has been steadily shrinking in the United States. As of January 1st, the United States had 86.7 million cattle and calves, down 8% from the most recent peak in 2019. That is the lowest number of cattle since 1951, according to the USDA. So we're actually raising fewer cows here because of various things, right? We don't like to raise cows here anymore because it costs us a lot of money to pay people to do that. And we're not as close to the feed. Down in Brazil, they're tearing down the rainforest to grow more soy and feed those cows. They've got a lot more grazing land for them. So ranchers can so their smaller herd, American beef industry has gotten better at breeding larger animals so ranchers can provide the same amount of beef with fewer animals. What do you think about that? I think
That's what we do.
Yeah, we've tried to make them bigger, right? Make bigger animals, fewer of them. Okay. Do I sell the animal now and take this record high check, or do I keep her to realize her returns over her productive life when she's having calves? So that's the other part. Because of higher prices of ranchers give ranchers more incentive to sell cows now to capture profits. So when the profits are high, they sell all their dairy calves and all the dairy cows. And so then they don't have any cows to make more babies. And that makes, again, a smaller herd. Also, the screwworm. We talked about the screwworm on one of our shows. The screwworm is a parasite that goes inside of cattle herds in Mexico, and it kills them, apparently. Does it kill them? It kills them, right? The New
I don't
World
think so. I think it's just
screwworm
like
fly.
a wound, but it probably can if it gets bad enough, but expensive to treat and stuff like that.
Flesh-eating maggots cause large economic losses as they did decades before the U.S. eradicated the pest. But now we rely more heavily on Mexico, so it's a danger for beef prices. And then finally, also tariffs. Because of all these things that we've exported, so now we're importing more of our cattle flesh. President Donald Trump's tariffs have yet to have a major impact on beef prices, but they could be another factor that drives prices higher because U.S. imports more than 4 billion pounds of beef every year, much of which is imported is beef trimmings that meat packers mix with fattier beef produced in U.S. to produce the varieties of ground beef that domestic consumers want. Much of that lean beef comes from Australia, New Zealand, that have seen a 10% tariff, but a lot of it comes from Brazil, that has a 50% tariff. And that means the higher price. They're saying it's going to stay high. What do you think about it staying high? If it stays high, is that a good thing?
Well, we've
Higher
learned
price
that
of cows?
animal-based protein consumption is elastic with respect to cost. So maybe that would result in decreased demand. So we will see.
I guess, should we be welcoming these tariffs? Maybe we should be cheering this all on. Let's have it be more expensive. Let's have, maybe we should be cheering on Donald Trump for 50% tariffs on Brazil. It'll raise the price of animal flesh. I remember when he was talking about Canada and Mexico being 10%, remember a while ago he was saying it's going to be 100% on Canada. Remember he was having all that going on. And since we're importing a lot of our processed dairy and a lot of our processed flesh from the north, it was going to have a big problem. It's going to be a big issue. It's going to raise the prices of animal meat. I don't know. I'm trying to find some lemonades here to make out of these lemons. I think maybe it's a good thing. Maybe if we should applaud all of these maneuverings.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't got nothing more. Right?
Nothing? I mean,
I don't.
isn't that what the argument for Prop 12 is?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Ultimately, I don't think these corporations will just allow the demand for meat to go down. So they'll figure out something. But we'll see.
Maybe they'll just mix it with
know.
more. It'll just get fatty or something. I don't know. Maybe they'll just mix it with other stuff. I've always felt that maybe McDonald's will just start mixing their hamburger meat with other stuff like soy. They'll just add more soy additives to make it like it'll be 50% Impossible and 50% animal flesh. I think that might be where we're going. It would make sense. Maybe it would help animals in the long run. I don't know. Maybe.
Anything else on that, or I move on back to
No,
the
not if you.
AVMA
I was
convention?
hoping that you would have an opinion about it. Okay, AVMA convention. Do it.
I other than just the data shows that demand for animal-based protein is elastic with respect to costs. So costs continue to go up and surpass inflation, then demand should go down. But we'll see.
Maybe capitalism will save animals after all.
I don't know. But there was one talk at the AVMA convention that did make a bunch of veterinarians really angry, and that was how veterinarians can improve animal welfare in commercial dog breeding kennels. And they even did an article about this, saying "Adopt, don't shop" is a popular slogan, but may not apply to everyone. Breeders help fill this gap and are a critical part of the supply of future generations of dogs. This person was the assistant director in the AVMA's animal welfare division. So this is a higher up the AVMA who gave this talk and said this. And she presented, how veterinarians can improve animal welfare in commercial dog breeding kennels. To imply... Sorry, what was the question?
Why is it not for everybody? I don't understand that first proposition there. Like, okay, so the claim is that it may not be for everybody. Well, why not?
Because some people want dogs produced in commercial dog breeding kennels.
I mean,
yes.
I guess like adopt, don't shop it helps animals. Adopt, don't shop, but that doesn't apply to everyone. Well, why not? It doesn't make. I don't think that's what's just. We should just let them off the hook on that. Of course, it applies to everybody. Everyone should adopt, not shop. Like,
to imply that commercial kennels are similarly capable of raising dogs suitable for family life as the other types of breeders they list here is inaccurate. Oh, sorry, I'm reading never mind. That's not part of the article. I think they're talking about like, how we need to provide commercial dog breeders provide like dogs for labs, for law enforcement, guide dogs for the blind, things like that. So that's what this
and that can't be that we can't do away with any of that. So the AVMA, how can we Jesus, I don't even want to ask, but fine. Because this is the thing, they make this claim that is immediately BS. Like they're building on a house of sand. They're building a house on a foundation of sand. Like, we need all of these. We need militarized dogs. We need lab dogs that we can dissect. And and we can't train. I don't know. I think the blind dog is kind of probably a lie too, because I don't think it's just because they take animals from shelters and turn them into seeing eye dogs. So I don't see how that would be. But like the claim is, it's false logic just to start. Like we don't. it does. It's we don't need those things, and they're saying we do. So how can we make it more palatable? Make puppy mills more palatable.
Yeah, pushing back against the industry bias towards commercial dog breeding kennels. This person, I don't want to say her name, emphasized the veterinary profession must better ally with dog breeders, whether commercial, community, show, or hobby. We want the veterinary community to see all dog breeders, but especially commercial breeders, as future partners in shaping the health and well-being of the dogs of the future. She covered the 5 domains of animal welfare, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So brachiocephalic breeders that breed animals to literally suffer their entire lives, the ones with the smushed up little faces because
she
they
says
want a
screen
cute
dogs
dog.
for congenital disorders. So I don't know if she supports veterinarians against brachycephaly. We'll see if maybe somebody asked that question. It is very much a reproductive focus, so it's a little different from working with the regular pet owner. We have to keep the end goal in mind, which is producing calm, confident, happy puppies that are successful and free of congenital disorders and defects. But we also need to appropriately breed animals too. Otherwise, you won't have puppies in the future. Yeah. So
how are I know we're I don't know how to say this, but how are vets when they think about this? They see, so veterinarians see the worst of the worst, right? And they see people that don't take care of their dogs. They see people that bring in dogs with stupid things that happen to them because of negligent owners. And yet they still support this idea of having dogs, and we might see a world with no puppies in the future if we don't keep breeding them intentionally.
yeah.
Is that a bad thing?
I still think, I don't know, the general public, I think most people want to have a relationship with an animal of another species, especially now people are realizing, like, I don't want children. Like, that sounds like a horrible idea, but I do want like an animal family member. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, I don't think that dogs are going away. I don't think there'll be any shortage of dogs to take care of. So
Right, there will be no shortage. I guess it's such a strange thing to, like, even okay, maybe people want to have dogs, but I mean, we want a relationship with animals regardless of how that makes, regardless of what the animal wants, regardless of what that doesn't matter. It matters what I want. I want a relationship with an animal, and I will breed an animal, take that animal away from his or her mother, and then put that animal in a house, lock him up for 8 hours a day while I'm at work, and I'll give him what time I can. I'll take him for a walk from time to time. He acts really happy when I take him for a walk because otherwise he doesn't go outside. But look how happy he is. He just get all the feels.
yeah, well, we've established that people are fine with exploiting others,
but
as
how
long
are
as they benefit
vets?
from it.
But like, what about the veterinarian when they see this over and over and over again? Like, I don't know. You see in the rural South what they're doing to animals. They chain them up outside. They're covered in parasites. They've got chain that, that they outgrow their chain, and so the chain is inside their skin, and so they put another chain around their neck instead of getting it removed. Like, and like veterinarians see this more than everybody else. And what do
Yeah,
they
and I
say
think,
when
and
people
a
like,
lot of people, like, leave general practice because they hate it. They hate
yeah,
seeing all of these animals, and people who can't take care of the animals, and they think it's a problem with either the people, like people are so mean, like,
people are stupid, people are
or
mean, they're
just the
uneducated,
toxic
yeah.
veterinary clinic structure and corporate veterinary clinic. But I don't think there's not enough veterinarians who are bold enough to, like, straight up say, like, and join. I wonder how many veterinarians would join together and be like, yeah, we need to just ban all breeding of dogs for profit. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
let's do that. Let's join together on that.
yeah, and like philosophically, I would agree. I mean, I just don't think that bans really work, but yeah, I think sure, but I wonder just,
And what does work? What will work?
I don't, I don't think people, well, what will work? I don't think the fact that most houses have dogs now in America, I think is a problem. Most people shouldn't have dogs. We have 51% of households have dogs now in America. When I
Cool.
was
You
growing
say
up,
they shouldn't. You don't want to ban anything. Like, what's your answer?
well, I think they're breeding in order to fulfill a demand, and we're manufacturing that demand, right? We're making dogs be cute in TV. There's all this propaganda around it where we're saying like, oh, buy this dog. He's got a smushed up little face, isn't it cute? And you can see it around. And once you start watching it, it's everywhere. It's in every ad. It's all over the place. And I think it's a concerted effort. I don't think it's by accident that we see all this all the time. Like even in Top Gun, I'm thinking like, why did they have to have a big golden retriever in Top Gun? Because that's American. That's an American dog. We got to have Top Gun. He's got to pet a golden retriever in the movie. Like these things that we're reinforcing all the time would be great. Educating people to see through that BS. I don't know what works, but I do feel like it's beneficial to dogs in general to not have them living in apartments. And it used to be where you couldn't have a dog in an apartment. Like when I first moved out of my parents' house, I could not find a place that took a dog, and you'd have to ask for permission from your landlord to get a dog or a cat. You know, someone asked me about greyhound breeding. We'll talk about that in a second, I guess. But I guess what I wanted to ask you before I try to answer that, Crystal, is like when people make those claims in veterinary settings, and like, who cares what I think? I'm just some stupid animal rights activist who's too heady and thinking about philosophically and academically about these things. But veterinarians are seeing it in the flesh every day, and they're getting burned out. And we all know what that looks like with vets. They got a whole bunch of other stuff that's affecting them because of it. And then someone comes out and says, well, we got to have puppy mills. I mean, we got to have them, right? What did the vets say? Did they push back?
Well, they didn't say puppy mills. They said commercial dog breeding facilities. Yes, there was a lot of that Facebook post got a lot of vitriol from veterinarians, and
Okay, all right.
veterinarians were angry about this and
Well,
said, like, we
that
have,
makes me happy. What'd they say?
yeah,
What'd they say
they
why were they angry?
no, they said it's ridiculous. You know, we have this overpopulation problem already. We know puppies raised in commercial breeding establishments have higher rates of serious behavior problems. And basically the only role the veterinarian should have in this conversation is to shut these sorts of places down.
Okay, good.
So yeah.
All right, that restores my faith a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
Very
Okay.
few people. Of course, there's always people who are like, well, there are good breeders out there, but I don't think anybody made the argument that they're good commercial breeders. I could potentially make the argument that like guide dogs for the blind, I used to work at guide dogs for the blind. Maybe they're a commercial breeder doing it right, but there were a lot of problems with that place too. I don't think it's I don't necessarily think that it's a great thing. They bred some amazing dogs. Those dogs are wonderful. Like, and it is hard to do what they're doing just with unwanted dogs and at the volume that they're doing it at. But I do think it's a bit exploitative too.
A bit.
So,
I mean, I think it's 100%. If you're
yeah.
doing it for money, it's exploitative.
Yeah. Well, it's a nonprofit in theory. I think, yeah, they're doing it for nonprofit reasons.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like, does consent matter? Do any of these things matter that we say matter? Because this is the problem, right? We say things like consent matters and autonomy matters and individuals matter. And then we do the opposite. And maybe that's, if you ask me, like what works. Yeah, maybe bans that are enforced, maybe.
Guide dogs to the blind. Can you guess their net assets? Holy shit.
Guess.
Beginning net assets for fund balance is $452 million. Almost half $500 million they have.
Yeah.
It's just huge. And
yeah, and only like 3% of blind people have have seeing eye dogs. It's a really small percentage. And
their CEO makes $500,000 a year.
You get that all the time. Like people go, oh, well, what are you going to get rid of seeing eye dogs? It's like guide dogs are a very small percentage. It's not really going to be. And I tell you what, take them out of the pound and train them. Let's do it that way. If you must have them, which I don't believe we do. What does a dog have to do with the fact that a human being is blind? I don't
Yeah.
think that that's.
And you have to like keep it the guide dogs for the blind. I think it's just one location, and maybe they have like a location in Oregon, but I worked at the one in San Rafael, and they also don't pay very well. Like their staff,
Well, they're
it's a
nonprofit, Crystal. Nonprofits don't
yeah.
pay. How many
Half a
times
billion dollars though.
I've
My
spent a lot of
God.
time in my life working for nonprofits, and I somehow am not getting rich, but people keep getting rich off of it somehow. I'm just the dummy who
Yeah.
never gets rich off of it. Bootlicker, ex-bootlicker asks Sky her thoughts on greyhound breeding. That is her thoughts.
I'm
That's you.
strong support. Like, what do you think my thoughts on greyhound breeding are? Of course, I am against it.
Well,
Like,
you're against greyhound breeding? I mean, how else are they going to do it? I mean, you can't just adopt, not shop on the
yeah.
greyhounds. You know, funny, my mother, a lot of people know that she was a small-time breeder. She bred a lot of different dogs when I was a kid, and she wasn't some big puppy mill or anything. She loved dogs, and she bred them, and she sold them for shows, and she showed dogs. I grew up going to lots of dog shows when I was a kid, lots of them. I wanted to be a handler and show them. I never did, though. And when I finally convinced her that the AKC was equivalent to one of the most horrific organizations in American history, she said, you know, you're right, finally. And I couldn't believe it. And she started adopting greyhound rescues. She had greyhound. She was greyhound foster. She had a greyhound in her house till the day she died. And if you love they're beautiful dogs. They're wonderful. They sleep like 18 hours a day. They're wonderful companions. They require very little training. I highly recommend, if you want a dog in your life, rescue a greyhound. They're incredible. So
Yeah.
adopt,
I
don't
love
shop.
greyhounds. They're wonderful. Here, let's look at the AKC's 990. If you're ever thinking about donating to any organization, you should always look at their 990 and see what the deal is.
Well, if you're thinking about donating to any organization, what you should first do is go to ourhonor.org/donate.
Yes,
and
please.
make a charitable donation to Our Honor, so you can help us do our important work of investigative work and also converting and having these conversations with veterinarians, but also all of our FOIA requests and all that stuff. A lot of that takes time and money, and your contribution would be greatly appreciated, way more than if you gave it to the AKC or anybody else.
Yeah. And you can find our 990s. The last year was the first year that we had to, last 2 years. Because before it was just a postcard because we made less than $50,000 a year. And now we're in the $100,000 a year range, so we're a very small organization, yet we do more than a lot of what the larger organizations do. That's for sure. Get more media attention, more thoughtful discussions on these topics than the vast majority of other organizations.
And the link is in the chat. If you'd like to donate, we would greatly appreciate it. We're always, we're like most small organizations, we're always begging for money, because we run a really tight ship on a shoestring budget. So please find it in your heart to donate. But what about AKC's and 10? Was it 990? 990, right?
They brought in net assets $131 million. Let's scroll down to
$131 million.
Their head makes 400. Oh wait, no. Here, let me go back to the top here. Director makes $12,000
million.
Oh, here, Dennis B. Sprung makes $1.5 million. The executive secretary makes $705,000. The chief financial officer makes $465,000. The executive VP makes $730,000. And everybody always complains about the ASPCA and how their executive director makes like $1 million a year and everything. Like, just keep in mind, they're fighting these guys. So
they're fighting these guys, and they're trying to attract talent to combat them. And Ingrid makes $35,000 a year.
Yeah, of course. Like, just like, instead of sharing whatever meme that it's attacking some animal advocacy organization, why don't you share the meme about the AKC making 1.5, their CEO making $1.5 million? and
And if
they've
you don't
done
know what the
anything.
AKC is, sorry, we've been saying it's the American Kennel
Oh,
Club. They're the
who
ones that
doesn't know what the AKC is?
I
Is
don't
there
think I
people
don't think
actually
everybody
know?
knows what the AKC is. We're looking at them right now. They're a nonprofit that for some reason America is totally we're obsessed with the AKC in this country. I don't know why. But they keep all the tallies of how many different dog breeds are born, and they are the ones that recognize the breeds. They're the ones that do the dog shows or sponsor the dog shows, and their CEO makes $1 million, $750,000.
No, CEO makes $1.5 million, and their
1.5.
like secretary makes $700,000. They made $51 million in dog registrations. Like, geez, like look at this. They got. Did they owe expense? They gave $5.5 million in grants. I wonder if we can get an AKC grant somehow.
Oh, JM's asking about PETA. PETA has an endowment of something like, last time I checked, it was like $80 million, guys. I mean, they're the largest animal rights organization in the world. Do you want to look up their 990 real fast? Do you have it?
Yeah, let's look at that. But still, like nothing compared to AKC.
Nothing compared to
and
AKC. Nothing compared to like AKC brings in what was it? $150 million? What was that? Was that how much it was? $130 million?
Yeah.
It's still almost twice of what PETA brings in. Twice.
So PETA, they have like, look at this. Let's bring in net assets of $28 million.
$28 million.
Their total revenue is $67 million. It's good for them bringing in the money. Yeah,
they bring in a lot.
Last year was $74 million.
Right, that's the one I remember. But who's making all the money? What's the highest paid person at PETA?
Let's see.
I'm gonna guess it's 150 grand.
Ingrid makes $37,000.
Oh, she gave herself a raise.
Tracy Riemann makes $126,000.
Ooh, Tracy's doing okay. Okay. Well, Tracy lives in LA. I mean, she has to pull in a little bit more.
Yeah. Rosalind Zayas, the director, makes $147,000. Kathleen Guillermo makes $142,000. So yeah, not bad.
So, because they got some lawyers on there that probably make. I remember some of the lawyers are making good money, but
yeah, I'm surprised the lawyers aren't in that of the top salaries. But that's it. That's how the most of,
yeah,
they're not paying a lot of people.
No, they're not, and they don't pay much, and they just fired a lot of people too, and replaced them with AI. But I mean, this is where we are. I mean, this is what we're up against. The PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world, is a tiny fraction of what companies like the AKC are doing. Or isn't the National Pork Board a nonprofit? They count as a nonprofit?
Then we could look at like the National Pork Producers Council. Maybe let's do.
That's what I mean. Like one of those guys, the Pork Producers Council or Association. One of those guys. Isn't the checkoff the voluntary checkoffs? Aren't they classified as nonprofits? Probably not. I thought they
were. Here, National Pork Checkoff Financials, National Pork Board Foundation. Let's look at the National Pork Producers Council. So National Pork Producers Council revenue $24.9 million. Yeah.
Not bad. Just report. That's just one though. They've got like 10 different organizations.
Yeah, there's so many different ones. And there's all the Iowa Farm Bureau, the Iowa Pork Producers Council is like a different one. And the farm bureaus and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many. So here's Tracy Walters only makes $24,000. Oh, here's the big bucks. Michael Formica makes $323,000. Mary Zeba makes $267,000. Anne Marie Pender makes $247,000. Kelly Cushman makes $243,000. Jeff Piggott, $231,000.
So all of them are making between 2 and 3 times more than the highest paid people at PETA. JM asked that they're the marketing contract, advertising and marketing contracts. JM, most of the budget for places like PETA do go to marketing. I mean, they're basically looking at PETA. someone told me once, like the best way to look at PETA, it really is kind of like the public relation branch of the animal rights world.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Not exactly, not 100%, but I think there's a lot to. It's pretty
But
accurate.
like, yeah, advocacy is getting that information out there to people. So,
And that's largely what they do. It's a huge chunk of what they do is advocacy and advertisements and stuff like that. So that's most of their budget. Those billboards
Mhm.
don't print themselves, you know, they cost a lot of
No.
money. And the truck that I drove around, that came out as marketing. So it costs a lot of money. That truck costs a lot of money. I cost a lot of money. I had to stay in hotels. All that stuff costs money. So
Yep.
it makes them. I mean, I wouldn't poo-poo it too much. These nonprofits that are trying to work for animals, I think, are really important, and they're worth every penny. And if you have any misgivings about big places like PETA, then you should go to ourhonor.org/donate and make a contribution to an organization that you can actually interact with the people who are doing the work. You can actually come on live and ask us questions, and we'll be happy to answer them to you. We're not going to be shadowy like the others. I did want to ask you one question before we go, Crystal. I starred this one. I thought you'd, because are you wanting to ban Thanksgiving? It's coming up, and
No, I don't want to ban Thanksgiving. Like,
okay.
I just, encouraging people to support animal-free methods of protein production for your Thanksgiving celebrations.
Yeah, you don't have to kill. Thanksgiving isn't really about killing an animal. It's about getting together with friends and having a party. It's about friends and family. It's who you spend it with, not who you're killing and putting on the table. Yeah, I don't want to ban Thanksgiving either. I just think that we should be more cognizant of what we're doing on Thanksgiving when we celebrate.
Yeah.
And Karina is at Disneyland today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she went to Disneyland super early, and I worked at Disneyland, but I have a lot of problems with Disneyland, and mostly because they use horses all summer long. They use a lot of horses there, and they do a fireworks presentation. Now, at the end of the AVMA thing, you said that they did fireworks for all the vets. I thought vets were
Yeah.
against fireworks.
I know, that's kind of nuts. I'm surprised there wasn't more of an uproar about that, but maybe I'm just not in those chats. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
I mean, it seems like a really weird thing to do, to have fireworks at the AV. But then again, when we were at VMX and they were serving dead animals in like in the aisles, I thought that was weird. I think it's weird for a bunch of vets to be gobbling up dead animals in front of each other.
Because, but people think that they need animal products to be healthy, and most veterinarians think that too. So
yeah, that goes out the window when they're serving people hot dogs. You know what I'm saying?
But they think they need animal protein. Hot dogs, a lot of people think a hot dog is healthier than a thing of French fries. So,
or an apple. A hot dog is healthier than a banana.
Well, you're not. The same. There's hardly any protein in an apple. If you're like replacing my hot dog with an apple, I'm sorry. Like, that's not an adequate nutritional equivalent there.
I think I'm getting more out of the apple than the hot dog. I think I think I'm healthier eating the apple than the hot dog. I'll find my protein someplace else. Hot dogs, I think, are poison. So, I mean, don't they have Campylobacter?
Not always. If you cook them, hopefully they don't.
And listeria? I don't know. They seem dangerous to me. Crystal, did you see my questions? Got any tips? I'm trying to feed him and now he's not eating. Crystal, I'm currently... Okay, last question, because this is a 3-hour show and it's really hot where I am. So this is the last question. Crystal, I'm currently caring for a dog with mouth cancer and the tumor regrew. It's now about 4.5 inches across and he is having difficulties eating and drinking. He's on chemo and pills too. Got any tips?
Wow. I would need to know what kind of pills, and is it time for the quality of life discussion? Google quality of life scale and talk to your veterinarian and have a conversation with your veterinarian. I don't know what kind of cancer it is. I don't know what kind of pills you're on. I don't know what the body condition score of your dog is. Look up body condition score charts. Are there more good days and bad days? Is it time to say goodbye? Is that the compassionate thing to do? What are your beliefs around that? That's a long conversation. I'd definitely go talk to your veterinarian who's giving you chemotherapy pills, and on what to do next, because I can't really advise anything from here.
She's watching him for the local shelter. I'm watching him for my
Oh,
local
wow.
shelter. Oh,
That's interesting choice.
oh my
Buy a
God. He's going.
shelter.
Oh, he's gonna have surgery. So we just need to
Oh,
get him
okay,
to
that's
have.
good.
We just need
Definitely
tips on how
talk
to
to
get him
your
to eat, I guess.
well, talk to the vet at the shelter. They'll be able to help you a lot better than I will from here, because I don't know. And they'll be able to give you different food to try or whatever. So, yeah,
All
I
right.
can't really help, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, Mike G's says, thank you for having this talk. I learned something every time. No, thank you, Mike G's, for tuning in. And we do this every Wednesday. We talk about animal issues that are current and topical and from the science-based and veterinary perspective. And I throw in stuff that is over the top, alarmist, animal rights activist stuff.
Yeah. And please send to your vets, and I'm going to write in the chat, to your veterinarian, and your representatives in Congress, this letter about section 12007 of the Farm Bill. We need to stop this, and we need to not let them overturn Prop 12. So we need to all take
if you know
action
a vet, send it
urgently.
to a vet for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or
A lot
edit
of
the
the ways
letter
you
to
can-
make it fit you and send it yourself. So please.
Yes, I totally agree. Send it. We got to get this word out. We got to make it happen. McLovin says thanks. And I want to say thank you one more time to Jackie Boyle and Sid. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. Actually, we'll see you on Friday for 4. We're doing FOIA Friday, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're doing FOIA Friday at 4. If you love to hear, it's only a 1-hour show, but it's about how to peek under the hood of government by exercising our right to the freedom of information. And I will have a FOIA, and so will Crystal, and we'll talk about where we're at on that one. So thank you so much for being here. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
FOIA is fun. FOIA is fun. We're putting fun back in FOIA, Mike G's. Thank you to our moderators, too. Thank you, moderators.